I built this company before any of you learned what loyalty meant. Emma's voice cracked across the boardroom like a whip. Her hands slammed the glass table, water glasses jumped, papers scattered. 8 executives flinched. Derek Walsh didn't. He leaned back, that snake smile spreading wider, and Emma saw it. He'd already won. The wheelchair locked beneath her wasn't just metal and rubber. It was a cage. It was proof. It was the reason every person in this room looked at her like she was already a ghost. Emma, Derek said, voice dripping false concern, "We just think the company needs stable leadership." The word stable hit her chest like a bullet, because stable meant standing, and she couldn't stand anymore. Before we go further, hit that subscribe button right now. Stay with me until the very end of this story. You won't believe where it goes. And comment your city below. I want to see how far Emma's story travels across the world. Now let's begin. Sign here. The nurse held the discharge papers like they were a death certificate. Emma Carter stared at the dotted line, then at her legs, 2 useless things covered by a thin hospital blanket. 3 days ago, she could run. She could climb stairs. She could stand in a boardroom and watch grown men look away first. Now she couldn't feel her toes. "Ms. Carter," the nurse's voice went soft, that terrible pitying soft. "Do you need help signing?" "No." Emma grabbed the pen so hard her knuckles went white. She signed her name in sharp, angry strokes. Emma. Catherine Carter, CEO of Carter Technologies, builder of empires, woman whose legs didn't work anymore. "I can still hold a pen." The nurse smiled, sad, knowing, and left. Emma looked at the wheelchair folded beside the hospital bed. $48,000. Custom titanium frame, leather seat. They'd measured her like they were fitting her for a coffin. The physical therapist kept saying mobility device, like pretty words could change what it was, proof that the truck had won. Her phone buzzed. 14 missed calls, 23 texts. She ignored them all except one. Rebecca, her assistant. "The board is asking when you'll be back." "What should I tell them?" Emma typed with shaking hands. 2 weeks. "Rebecca, Emma, the doctor said at least 6 weeks, 2 weeks. Tell Derek I'll be there in 2 weeks." She sent it and threw the phone on the bed. 2 weeks. She could do 2 weeks. She could learn to transfer, to dress herself, to function in this new broken body in 2 weeks. She'd built a tech company from nothing in 5 years. She could learn to live in a wheelchair in 14 days. She had to, because the moment they thought she couldn't come back, they'd take everything. Naham. The office lobby felt different. Emma rolled through the revolving door at 7 a.m. sharp, 3 weeks after the accident. The marble floor gleamed. The Carter Technologies logo blazed across the back wall. Her logo, her vision, 20 years of blood and brutal hours turned into brushed steel letters 10 feet tall. But something was wrong. Marcus, the security guard, saw her coming. His face did something complicated. Surprise, pity, relief, fear, all mixed together in an expression that made Emma's stomach turn. "Ms. Carter." He rushed to hold the elevator. We didn't know you were coming in today." "I work here, Marcus." "Of course, yes, of course." He jabbed the button for the 42nd floor like it might explode. "It's just Mr. Walsh said." He stopped himself. Emma's hands tightened on the wheelchair grips. "What did Mr. Walsh say?" "Nothing. Nothing, ma'am. Welcome back." The elevator doors closed. Emma watched the floor numbers climb and felt her heartbeat in her throat. 42 floors. She'd made that climb 10,000 times. Now it felt like going to her own execution. The doors opened. The hallway was empty. 7 a.m. and the executive floor was empty. That never happened. Emma's leadership team started at 6:30 always. It was culture. It was expectation. It was the unspoken rule that separated winners from people who went home at 5. Where was everyone? Emma rolled down the corridor. Her office was at the end. Glass walls, corner view, the power office. She'd fought for that office, earned it, defended it against 3 different executives who thought they deserved it more. Someone was inside. Derek Walsh sat in her chair looking at her computer, reading something on her screen that made him smile. Emma's vision went red. She slammed her wheelchair into the door hard enough to make the glass rattle. Derek jumped, hand flying to his chest like she'd shot him. "Jesus, Emma, get out of my chair." Derek stood slowly, hands raised, that careful political smile sliding across his face. I was just reviewing the quarterly reports. I didn't expect you this early. Rebecca said you weren't coming in until... I don't care what Rebecca said. Get out of my chair. Emma, Derek's voice went soft, dangerous soft. The voice he used in negotiations when he was about to destroy someone. You've been through incredible trauma. No one expects you to jump right back into... Into what? Running my company, making decisions, being the CEO. Emma rolled forward until her wheelchair touched the desk. Her desk. What exactly do you think I can't do anymore, Derek? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Derek glanced at the door, checking if anyone could hear. They were alone. He sat on the edge of the desk, her desk, and folded his arms. The careful mask slipped just enough for Emma to see underneath ambition that had been sharpening itself for 20 years. The board is concerned, he said quietly. You were gone for 3 weeks. Critical decisions were delayed. The Parker acquisition fell through. We lost the Singapore contract. The stock dropped 13%, Emma. 13% because investors don't know if you're coming back or if you're even capable of... Capable of what? Emma's voice was ice. Say it. Capable of doing my job from a wheelchair. Capable of handling the stress. Derek leaned forward. You almost died. Your body is broken. Maybe your judgment is... Emma's hand shot out and grabbed Derek's wrist, hard, tight, with all the strength left in her upper body. Derek gasped. My legs don't work, Emma said, each word a bullet. My spine is damaged. My life is permanently changed. But my brain is fine. My memory is perfect. And I remember every single thing you've done in the last 3 weeks. Every meeting you called without me. Every decision you made without my approval. Every time you sat in my chair and pretended you were doing me a favor. She released his wrist. Derek stumbled back, face flushed. Get out of my office, now! Derek straightened his tie, that smile coming back. The board meeting is at 10, emergency session. They want to discuss leadership structure going forward. What does that mean? It means they want to know if you're fit to lead. Derek walked to the door, paused. Emma, I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to help you understand reality. You're not the same person you were a month ago. Accept that. Step back gracefully. Take the time you need to heal. Let someone else carry the weight for a while. Someone like you, Derek shrugged. Drugged. I've kept this company running for 3 weeks, the board noticed. He left. Emma sat alone in her office still hers for now, and let the shaking start. Her hands trembled. Her breath came too fast. The walls felt like they were closing in. Derek was right about one thing: she wasn't the same person. The old Emma would have fired him on the spot, would have crushed him with lawyers and leverage and 20 years of accumulated power. But the old Emma could stand up and walk out of a room when she was done destroying someone. This Emma was trapped in a chair. This Emma had just shown weakness by letting Derek walk away. This Emma was about to lose everything. So, the emergency board meeting started at 10:03 a.m. Emma rolled into the room at exactly 10 o'clock. She'd spent 2 hours in her office preparing. War paint makeup, power suit navy Tom Ford tailored perfectly, even though the pants hung empty. Hair perfect, face calm. She looked like the CEO who'd built Carter Technologies from a garage startup into a $3 billion empire. She looked like someone in control. Inside, she was screaming. 8 board members sat around the glass table. 8 people whose careers Emma had built, whose fortunes Emma had made, whose loyalty Emma had bought with results and ruthlessness and 20 years of never failing. Not one of them met her eyes. Derek sat at the far end. He'd brought a lawyer, young, sharp-suited, carrying a leather folder thick with documents. Emma's stomach dropped. Thank you all for coming, Emma said. Her voice didn't shake. That was something. I understand there are concerns about my ability to lead during my recovery. I'm here to address those directly. James Morrison cleared his throat. 73 years old, Emma's first investor, the man who'd believed in her when she was 28 and had nothing but code and ambition. Emma, no one questions your capability. Your track record speaks for itself. We're simply discussing contingency plans, Derek's voice cut across. We're discussing what happens if you can't fulfill your duties. I'm fulfilling them right now. Are you? Derek opened his folder, pulled out papers, slid them across the table. The Parker acquisition. You were unreachable for 6 critical days during negotiation. They walked. I was in intensive care. The Singapore contract. You missed 3 conference calls. They gave the deal to Chen Industries. I was learning to transfer from a wheelchair to a toilet, Derek. Forgive me for missing calls. The room went silent. Someone coughed. No one looked at Emma. Derek's lawyer leaned forward. Ms. Carter, I think what Mr. Walsh is trying to express gently is that your recovery requires time and focus. No one blames you for prioritizing health. But Carter Technologies can't pause for 6 months while you... I'm not pausing anything. I'm here. I'm working. For how long? Derek's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. How long before the pain gets too much? Before the physical therapy takes priority? Before you realize that running a billion-dollar company from a wheelchair isn't realistic? Emma's hands gripped the wheelchair arms. I've run this company from hospital beds, from airports, from my father's funeral. A wheelchair doesn't change what I can do. Doesn't it? Derek pulled out another paper. I have emails from 6 department heads expressing concern about your availability. I have a letter from our biggest investor asking about succession plans. You have been planning this. Emma's voice cut like a blade. She reached into her bag, pulled out her own folder. You want to talk about emails, Derek? Let's talk about emails. She slid a paper across the table. Calendar screenshots, restaurant receipts, a printed photograph of Derek shaking hands with a silver-haired man outside a steakhouse in Midtown. That's Marcus Chen, CEO of Vertex Capital, the same private equity firm that tried to buy Carter Technologies 5 years ago. The same firm I told to, and I quote, go to hell and take their blood money with them. You've met with Marcus Chen 4 times in the last 3 months. February 14th, March 3rd, March 29th, April 12th. Derek's face went white. April 12th was 3 days after my accident, Derek. 3 days. I was still in the ICU and you were having dinner with a corporate raider discussing acquisition terms. The room erupted. That's out of context. Is it because I also have emails? Emma pulled out more papers. Her hands were steady now. Fury was better than fear. Subject line, long-term succession planning. Sent February 14th, 2 months before my accident. Want to read it aloud or should I? James Morrison grabbed the email. Read it. His face went gray. Derek, what is this? Strategic planning. You were planning her removal before she was injured. James's voice shook. You were discussing succession before there was any reason to. There's always reason for succession. Planning. 2 months later, she's hit by a truck and you have a buyer ready. Emma leaned forward. That's not planning, Derek. That's waiting. You were waiting for me to fail. And when the accident gave you an opening, you were ready. Derek's lawyer started talking fast. Mr. Walsh's private meetings have no bearing on his performance as CFO. Ms. Carter is clearly under tremendous stress. Perhaps these accusations indicate that she's not in a stable mental state to... Don't. Emma's voice was cold. Don't you dare turn my evidence into proof that I'm crazy. I have documentation. I have witnesses. I have everything I need to prove that you've been sabotaging this company while pretending to hold it together. That's not true. Then explain the leak. Silence. Emma looked at each board member. 3 journalists received anonymous tips about my diminished capacity while I was in the hospital. The tips came from an email account accessed from this building. This floor. I have the IT logs. Want to guess whose computer it was? Derek's face crumbled. James Morrison stood up shaking. This meeting is over. Derek, you're suspended pending investigation. Emma. No. Emma's voice was firm. Not suspended. I want a vote. Right now. Do I remain CEO or not? Emma, that's not necessary. Vote now. The room went still. James looked around the table. All in favor of Emma Carter continuing as CEO? 4 hands went up, slowly, reluctantly. All opposed, 4 hands. Derek abstained, 4-4, a tie. Emma felt the floor drop out from under her. We'll revisit in 30 days, James said quietly. Emma, take the time to focus on recovery. Get stronger. Come back when you're ready for a full vote. It wasn't removal, but it was close enough. Emma rolled out of that room with her head high and her heart in pieces. She made it to the parking garage before the tears came. Great choking sobs that she'd held back for 8 months. She cried for her legs, for her company, for the people she'd trusted who'd just proven that loyalty died the moment you couldn't stand anymore. Rebecca found her 20 minutes later. "I'm leaving," Emma said. "3 weeks. Tell them it's strategic planning." "Where will you go?" "North Carolina. My father's beach house. Somewhere no one looks at me like I'm already gone." The house was dying. Emma saw it the moment the car pulled up. Her father had built this place 40 years ago. Sturdy, simple, built to last forever. Now the porch sagged, paint peeled, gutters hung loose. Everything looked tired, just like her. She paid the driver, rolled up the ramp the real estate agent had installed, and unlocked the door. Inside smelled like salt and dust and memories Emma had been avoiding for a decade. Her father had died here. Heart attack. Alone. Emma had been in Tokyo closing a deal. She'd made it back 3 days after the funeral. She'd never forgiven herself. Now she was here alone, broken with nowhere else to go. The first night she sat on the dangerous porch and watched the ocean. Her phone rang constantly. She ignored every call. Derek, James, Rebecca, her lawyer, her ex-husband Robert suddenly concerned after 2 years of silence. Everyone wanted something. No one wanted her. The porch creaked under her wheelchair. Emma looked down. The wood was rotting. One wrong move and she'd fall through. Perfect metaphor. Everything looked stable, but underneath, everything was breaking. Her phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca. Derek called another board meeting. Next Wednesday. He says he has new concerns about your leadership. Emma, I think he's forcing a final vote. 6 days. Emma stared at the ocean and felt nothing. No anger, no fight, just emptiness. She could go back. She could fight. She could burn every bridge and call in every favor and go to war. Or she could let go, let Derek win, let the wheelchair be the excuse everyone needed. The ocean whispered. Emma made her choice. She texted Rebecca, "Tell Derek I'll be there. Tell him to bring lawyers. He'll need them." Then she called the repair company, left a message. "Foundation inspection, urgent. Tomorrow morning if possible." The truck arrived at 7:45 a.m. Emma heard it before she saw it, old Ford engine rattling like it was held together with hope and stubbornness. She rolled to the window. A man got out, tall, maybe 6'1", wearing jeans and a work shirt faded from 1,000 washes. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd built things, fixed things, understood how structures worked. He grabbed a toolbox and turned toward the house. Emma saw his face properly, 40-something lines around his eyes that came from squinting at Problem's jaw that looked like it had been clenched for years. Dark hair going gray at the temples. Wedding ring tan line, but no ring, widower Emma thought. She'd seen that look before. The look of someone still wearing the ghost of something they'd lost. She opened the door before he could knock. "Ms. Carter, John Miller, hear about your foundation." His voice was deeper than she expected. Rough, real. Not the corporate smooth talk she'd been drowning in for months. "It's the porch," Emma said. "It's rotting. I need it reinforced so my wheelchair doesn't fall through." John looked at the porch, looked at Emma, didn't stare at the wheelchair, didn't do the thing people did where they looked everywhere except at it. He just nodded. "Mind if I take a look?" "Do what you need." He knelt down, dropped right to his knees in the dirt without hesitation, and crawled under the porch. Emma watched through the window. He was under there for 15 minutes. When he emerged, his shirt was covered in cobwebs and his hands were dirty. "It's not the porch," he said. "What?" "Porch boards are fine, solid. The problem's deeper. Your foundation has water damage, has for years, maybe decades. The whole southeast corner is compromised. The weight distribution is wrong. That's why everything feels unstable." Emma's stomach dropped. "How much to fix it?" "Depends how deep the rot goes. Could be 5,000, could be 50,000. Won't know until I trace the water source and see what's actually broken underneath." "Perfect." Emma laughed bitterly. "Of course it's deeper. Of course it's worse than it looks." John studied her face. Not the wheelchair. Her face. "You okay? Do I look okay?" "No." The honesty hit Emma like cold water. No one had told her the truth in months. Everyone lied. Everyone said she looked great. She was so strong she'd bounce back. John Miller just told her she looked like hell. "Sorry," John said after a beat. I shouldn't have. No. Emma felt something crack open in her chest. No, thank you. Everyone's been lying to me since the accident. At least you're honest about the damage. I'm honest about everything. Pisses most people off. I bet. Emma almost smiled. Almost. How long to fix it? Couple weeks for the inspection. Then depends on what I find. This isn't a weekend job, Ms. Carter. This is serious structural work. Of course it is. Nothing simple anymore. John looked at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. I'll come back tomorrow. Morning. We'll start figuring out where it really broke. He left before Emma could respond. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about John's words. We'll figure out where it really broke. That's what she needed. Not for the house, for everything. She needed to find where the damage started. Before Derek, before the wheelchair, before the betrayal. She needed to trace the water source, find the rot underneath. At 2 a.m., she opened her laptop, started digging through old emails, months of messages she'd ignored during recovery, calendar invites, meeting notes, board minutes, and there it was. February 14th, email from Derek to James Morrison, subject, long-term succession planning. James, I believe we should begin considering contingency leadership structures. Emma has been an exceptional CEO, but she's approaching 50 with no clear succession plan. If something were to happen, illness, accident, anything unexpected, Carter Technologies would be vulnerable. We should discuss this quietly at the March executive retreat. Just preliminary planning. Emma's hand started shaking. The email was dated February 14th. Her accident was April 9th. Derek hadn't seen an opportunity when the truck hit. He'd been planning for it, waiting for it, hoping for it. The accident wasn't bad luck that Derek exploited. It was the answer to a problem Derek had been trying to solve for months. Emma read the email 3 more times. Each time felt like swallowing glass. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Rebecca. Derek's meeting is confirmed for Wednesday at 10 a.m. He's bringing outside counsel and a board restructuring proposal. Emma, he's going to try to remove you completely. 6 days. Emma looked at the email, looked at her useless legs, looked at the ocean through the window. She could run, could hide, could let them destroy her. Or she could find every piece of evidence, every email, every meeting, every lie. Trace the water source all the way back to where the rot started. She called John Miller. It was 2 a.m., but she didn't care. He answered on the third ring, voice rough with sleep. Hello, it's Emma Carter, the foundation job. I need you to start tomorrow. Full inspection, every corner, every pipe, every crack. I need to know exactly where the damage started and why. Silence. Then, are we still talking about the house? Emma closed her eyes. Start with the house. But I need someone who understands how to find the truth when everyone's been lying about the damage. Can you do that? Another pause. Yeah, I can do that. How fast? How fast do you need it? 6 days. That's barely enough time to... I don't have more time. Someone's trying to take something from me, and I need proof that they broke it on purpose. Can you help me or not? John was quiet for so long Emma thought he'd hung up. Then, I'll be there at 7, and Miss Carter? Yes, I'm good at finding rot, even when it's hidden under pretty paint and expensive lies. Emma felt something in her chest, hope maybe, or something like it. Good, because that's exactly what I need. She hung up and looked at the email again. 6 days to trace the water damage. 6 days to find every crack. 6 days to prove that Derek Walsh hadn't just betrayed her. He'd been planning it long before the wheelchair gave him an excuse. The house groaned and settled around her, broken underneath, but not dead, not yet. John Miller arrived at 6:47 a.m. with coffee, 2 cups, 1 black one with cream and sugar. He held them up when Emma opened the door. Wasn't sure how you'd take it. Emma stared at the cups. When was the last time someone had brought her coffee without being asked? Without it being a transaction, black, she said finally. Thank you. You look like you didn't sleep. I didn't. John handed her the cup and knelt down with his toolbox. No wasted movement, no small talk. He got to work immediately pulling out measuring tools, moisture meters, a camera with a light attachment. I'm starting with the crawl space, he said. Looking for water entry points, Could take a few hours. Emma watched him disappear under the house. She sipped the coffee, good coffee, not gas station garbage, and pulled out her laptop. If John was tracing damage underground, she needed to do the same with her company. She opened Derek's email again. Read it for the 10th time. If something were to happen, illness, accident, anything unexpected. The phrasing was careful, calculated, like he'd practiced it. Emma started searching her archived emails. 6 months back, 8 months, a year, looking for any other mentions of succession planning or leadership transitions, or any phrase that meant the same thing, getting rid of Emma. Nothing. Then she tried a different angle. She searched for Vertex Capital. 17 results. Emma's heart started pounding. The first mention was from 18 months ago, a brief email exchange between Derek and someone named Marcus Chen. Subject line, exploratory conversation. Emma clicked it open. Marcus, good to reconnect at the Forbes Summit. I appreciate your continued interest in Carter Technologies. While Emma remains firmly opposed to any acquisition discussions, I believe there may be strategic opportunities in the future worth exploring. Let's keep the dialogue open. Emma's coffee cup shook in her hand. 18 months ago, a full year before Derek's succession planning email. Derek had been talking to Vertex Capital while Emma was still healthy, still whole, still the unquestioned leader of her company. This wasn't opportunism. This was a long game. She searched for more, found another email from 14 months ago, then one from 11 months ago. Derek and Marcus Chen meeting every few months, always careful, always vague, always positioning it as keeping options open. Emma's phone buzzed. Text from her lawyer, Patricia Reeves. Got your message. Can we talk? This is serious. If you're right about Derek, Emma called immediately. Patricia answered on the first ring. Tell me everything. Emma did. The emails, the timeline, the Vertex Capital meetings. Derek's succession planning message sent 2 months before the accident. The emergency board meeting scheduled for Wednesday. Patricia was silent for a long moment. Emma, if we can prove premeditation, if we can show Derek was planning this before your injury, that changes everything. That's not just corporate maneuvering. That's potential fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. The board would have to remove him. Can we prove it in 6 days? 6 days, Patricia's voice went sharp. Emma, this kind of investigation takes weeks, maybe months. I don't have months. Derek votes Wednesday. If I'm not there with proof they remove me, it's over. Then we need everything. Every email, every calendar entry, every witness who can verify Derek was meeting with Vertex before your accident. Can you get that? I'm trying. Try harder. Patricia paused. Emma, I need to ask you something. Are you okay? Mentally, physically, because if we go to war with this and you fall apart halfway through, I won't fall apart. You almost died. You're in a wheelchair. You're alone in North Carolina. I'm not alone, Aisha. The words surprised Emma as much as they surprised Patricia. What does that mean? Emma looked at the floor where she could hear John moving around under the house tools, clanking his voice, muttering to himself as he worked. It means I have help. Someone who knows how to find damage other people miss. Patricia didn't push. Okay, get me everything you can. I'll start building the case. But Emma, be careful. If Derek suspects you're coming after him, he'll move faster. He'll do whatever it takes to lock you out before Wednesday. They hung up. Emma went back to the emails, started printing everything. 27 pages, every mention of Vertex Capital, every vague reference to future planning, every breadcrumb Derek had left while thinking no one would ever trace his path. 3 hours later, John emerged from under the house covered in dirt and cobwebs. His face was grim. Found your water source, he said. Someone installed a drainage pipe 15 years ago. Did it wrong, cut corners. The waters have been pooling under the foundation ever since, rotting the support beams from the inside out. Emma's stomach dropped. How bad? Bad enough that this porch should have collapsed years ago. You're lucky it held this long. John wiped his hands on his jeans. The thing is, this wasn't an accident. Whoever did this work knew what they were doing. They chose to do it wrong. Why would someone do that? John shrugged. Save money, save time. Figure they'll be long gone before the damage shows up. He looked at Emma. Sometimes people break things on purpose and make it look like natural decay. Emma felt something click in her brain. Can you prove it? She asked. Can you prove the damage was intentional? I can document it. Photos, measurements, code violations. Why? Because I need to prove the same thing about my company. Someone broke it on purpose, made it look like natural failure. And I need evidence that holds up in court. John studied her face for a long moment. That's not really about the house, is it? No. You want to tell me what's actually happening? Emma hesitated. She didn't know this man, didn't owe him explanations. But something about the way he looked at her, direct, honest, no judgment, made her want to tell the truth. My CFO is trying to steal my company, she said. He's been planning it for over a year, meeting with buyers, setting up a takeover, waiting for me to be vulnerable. When I had my accident, he saw his chance. Now he's got a board vote scheduled for Wednesday, and if I can't prove he's been sabotaging the company on purpose, I lose everything. John was quiet. Then, what do you need on evidence? Documentation. A way to show that what looks like my failure is actually his sabotage. That's not construction work. No, but it's the same principle, isn't it? Find where something broke, trace it back, prove it wasn't an accident. John looked at the printed emails scattered on Emma's lap, looked at her face. Something shifted in his expression, a decision being made. I used to be an architect, he said. Before this, corporate stuff, big developments. I was good at it. What happened? I found out my firm was cutting corners on a low-income housing project, using substandard materials, falsifying inspection reports. I reported it. They buried it, blamed me for the delays. I lost my license during the investigation. By the time I was cleared, my wife was dying, and I had a daughter to raise, and I couldn't go back to that world. Emma felt her chest tighten. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned something important. People in power will always protect themselves. They'll lie, cheat, and destroy anyone who threatens their control. The only way to beat them is to be more thorough, more patient, and more stubborn than they expect. Is that what you're offering help? John picked up one of the printed emails. Read it. His jaw clenched. This guy Derek, he's doing the same thing my old firm did, making things look normal while the rot spreads underneath. Yeah, I'll help you, but I have conditions. What conditions? My daughter Sophie, she's 7. I pick her up from school every day at 3:30. I don't miss pickups, ever. So if we're doing this, we work around that schedule. Emma felt something warm in her chest. A single dad prioritizing his kid above everything else. When was the last time she'd seen that kind of loyalty deal? And I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it because I hate men like Derek Walsh, men who think they can destroy people and get away with it. I can pay you. I don't want your money, John's voice was firm. I want you to win. That's payment enough. Emma didn't know what to say. For 20 years, everyone had wanted something from her. Money, power, connections, jobs. John Miller wanted nothing except to watch her beat the man trying to destroy her. Okay, she said finally, let's get to work. They spent the next 4 hours going through everything. John had a background in corporate structure. All those years designing buildings meant he understood contracts, legal frameworks, how organizations were supposed to function. He read through Emma's company charter, the board bylaws, Derek's emails. Here, John said suddenly, pointing at a clause in the charter, Section 14, subsection C. Any major transaction over 50 million requires unanimous board approval if it involves a change in company ownership structure. Derek's Vertex deal is a buyout. That needs unanimous approval. He has 8 board members, 4 are loyal to him. But that's not unanimous. He can't push this through legally without your vote, unless, John flipped through more pages, unless he amends the charter first. Emma's blood went cold. Can he do that? According to this charter, amendments require a simple majority vote plus 30 days notice to all board members. Did you get notice? No. Then he hasn't filed the amendment yet. But if he does it on Wednesday, if he gets 5 votes for an amendment, he can change the rules to bypass you. Emma felt the walls closing in. So Wednesday isn't just about removing me. It's about changing the charter so he can sell the company without my consent. That's my read. Jesus. Emma's hands shook. How do I stop that? You need to prove he's acting in bad faith. Prove he's been planning this for personal gain, not company benefit. If you can show the board that Derek's been conspiring with Vertex for his own profit, they can't legally vote for his amendment. it becomes fraud. Emma grabbed her laptop, started searching Derek's expense reports, travel records, anything that might show a pattern. And there it was, 8 trips to New York in the last 18 months, all filed as investor relations meetings. But when Emma cross-referenced the dates with Derek's emails to Marcus Chen, every single trip coincided with a Vertex Capital meeting. Derek had been using company money to plan the company's betrayal. "Got him, Emma whispered. John looked over her shoulder. "That's your smoking gun. He used corporate funds to meet with the buyer while planning to profit from the sale. That's textbook self-dealing." Emma started to smile, then her phone rang. "Rebecca. Emma, we have a problem." "What now?" "Derek just sent a memo to the entire board. He's claiming you've been erratic and unstable. He's citing your late-night phone calls, your sudden departure to North Carolina, your refusal to communicate with the leadership team. He's building a case that you're mentally unfit." Emma's smile died. "He's preempting me. He knows I'm building a case against him." "How would he know that?" "Good question." Emma's mind raced. She'd been careful, used her personal email, made calls from her cell phone. "Unless Rebecca, who has access to my company email account, you, me, and ITY, can IT see my personal emails if I access them through the company server?" Silence. "Emma, tell me you haven't been using the company VPN too." Damn it. Emma had been using her work laptop, connected to the corporate network. Every search, every email, every document she'd accessed, IHEAT could see all of it. And IT reported to Derek. "He knows," Emma said. "He knows I'm coming after him. That's why he sent the memo. He's discrediting me before I can expose him." "What do you do now?" Emma looked at John, looked at the evidence scattered across the table, looked at her useless legs, and felt the familiar rage rising. "I stopped playing defense," she said. "I go on offense." She hung up and called Patricia. "Derek knows I'm investigating him. He's trying to discredit me as mentally unstable. We need to move now. Emma, if we file before we have everything, we have enough. Expense reports showing self-dealing, emails proving premeditation, a clear timeline. We file today. Emergency injunction to freeze all board votes until the investigation is complete." "That's aggressive." "Derek's been aggressive for 18 months. I'm just catching up." Patricia was quiet. "Okay, send me everything. I'll file by end of business today. But Emma, this means war. Derek won't back down quietly." "Good, neither will I." Emma spent the next 2 hours forwarding documents to Patricia. Every email, every expense report, every piece of evidence. John helped her organize it, timeline it, make it as bulletproof as possible. At 3:15, John stood up. "I need to get Sophie." "Of course, thank you for..." "I'll be back at 7, after Sophie's dinner and homework. We can keep working." "You don't have to..." "Yeah, I do." John looked at her steadily. "Men like Derek destroy people because nobody stops them. I'm stopping him, so are you. We're not done yet." He left. Emma sat alone in the house and felt something she hadn't felt in months: hope. Not the desperate, grasping hope of someone drowning. The solid, grounded hope of someone who'd found an ally. Someone who gave a damn. Her phone rang. "Patricia." "It's filed. Emergency injunction. Hearing scheduled for Tuesday morning, day before the board vote. Judge wants to review the evidence and hear arguments from both sides." "Will it hold?" "If your evidence is as solid as you say, yes. But Emma, Derek's going to fight this hard. He'll bring his own lawyers. He'll claim you're vindictive, unstable, grasping at straws. You need to be ready." "I'm ready." "Are you? Because you'll be in court, in front of a judge. Derek will be sitting 10 feet away, and his lawyers will try to tear you apart. Can you handle that?" Emma looked at her wheelchair, looked at her legs, thought about the boardroom, about Derek's smile, about 4 to 4. "I can handle it," she said. She hung up and realized her hands weren't shaking anymore. At 7:03, John came back. A little girl trailed behind him, 7 years old, dark hair and pigtails, wearing a backpack shaped like a unicorn. "This is Sophie," John said. "Sophie, this is Mrs. Carter. She's the one with the house problem I'm helping with." Sophie looked at Emma's wheelchair with open curiosity. No fear, no pity, just interest. "Why are you in a wheelchair?" "Sophie," John started. "It's okay." Emma smiled. "I was in an accident. My legs don't work anymore." "Does it hurt?" "Sometimes." "My mom died," Sophie said matter-of-factly. "Cancer. That hurt her a lot, but she's not hurting anymore. Emma's throat tightened. I'm sorry about your mom. Sophie shrugged. It was 2 years ago. I still miss her, but Dad says it's okay to miss people. He says missing people means you love them. John's face was tight. Sophie, homework. Now, let Ms. Carter and me work. Sophie settled at the kitchen table with worksheets, while John and Emma went back to the documents. They worked in silence, the only sound Sophie's pencil scratching and the ocean outside. At 8:30, Sophie fell asleep with her head on the table. John carried her to the couch, covered her with his jacket, and came back. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to bring my kid to your crisis. Don't apologize. Emma struggled to find words. She's real. Everything in my life has been fake for so long. She's real. Yeah, kids are good at that. They don't know how to lie yet. John sat down. So, Tuesday hearing. What happens if you lose? Derek votes Wednesday, amends the charter, sells the company. I get paid out and forced into retirement. Everything I built gets dismantled by vultures. And if you win, Derek gets removed. Investigation continues. Board votes on permanent leadership. I get a fair shot. That's not enough. Emma looked at him. What do you mean? Winning the injunction stops Derek temporarily, but it doesn't fix the bigger problem. You've got a board split 4-4. Even if Derek's gone, you're still fighting half your own board. They still think you're too broken to lead. The words hurt because they were true. So what do I do? Emma's voice cracked. Even if I win Tuesday, I still have to prove I can run the company. And I'm in a wheelchair. I'm slow. I get tired. I need help with things I used to do myself. How do I prove I'm not broken when I am broken? John leaned back. My wife Lisa, when she was dying, she kept trying to do everything herself. Cook dinner, drive Sophie to school, work from home. She was terrified of being seen as weak. She'd rather collapse than ask for help. What happened? She collapsed. Emergency room. Sophie saw the whole thing, scared her half to death. John's voice was rough. After that, Lisa finally let people help. Let me help. Let Sophie help in little ways. And you know what? She was stronger when she stopped pretending to be fine, because she could focus her energy on the things that mattered instead of wasting it on proving she didn't need anyone. Emma felt tears burning. I don't know how to do that. I've been in charge for 20 years. Being strong meant not needing anyone. That's not strength. That's isolation. John looked at her. Real strength is knowing when to ask for help, knowing you can't do everything alone. Derek's counting on you being too proud to admit that. Prove him wrong. Emma wiped her eyes. How? Show the board you're not doing this alone. Show them you've built a team. Delegate. Trust people. Stop trying to prove you're the same person you were before the accident and show them you're actually better because now you understand how to lead through collaboration instead of control. Emma let that sink in. She'd been fighting alone for months, pushed Rebecca away, avoided her lawyer, refused help because accepting help felt like admitting defeat. But maybe that was the trap. Maybe Derek wanted her isolated, wanted her to exhaust herself trying to prove she didn't need anyone. Because isolated leaders were easy to remove. I need to rebuild my team, Emma said slowly. Not just lawyers, people I trust, people who understand what I'm fighting for. That's a start. Will you be on that team? John looked surprised. I'm a contractor. You're an architect who understands corporate fraud. You found the pattern in Derek's emails faster than my lawyer did. You're exactly who I need. Emma, I've got a kid. I can't be in Manhattan for board meetings. You don't have to be, but I need someone who sees what I can't see, someone who knows how to find hidden damage. Will you help me not just this week, after, when I'm fighting to rebuild? John was quiet for a long time. Why me? Because you told me the truth when everyone else lied. Because you're helping me for the right reasons. Because your daughter deserves to see her father fight for something good. Emma paused. And because I'm tired of being alone. John looked at Sophie sleeping on the couch, looked at Emma, made his decision. Okay, but I'm not moving to New York and I'm not wearing a suit. Emma actually laughed. Deal. They worked until midnight, built a timeline, identified weaknesses in Derek's case, prepared for every argument his lawyers might make. At 12:17, John stood to leave. He gathered Sophie gently, and the girl mumbled, but didn't wake. Tuesday morning, he said at 9 a.m., I'll drive you to the courthouse. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. You're going into battle. You don't go into battle alone. He headed for the door, then turned back. Emma, you're going to win, not because you're the smartest or the richest or the most ruthless, but because you're fighting for the right thing. And that matters more than people think. He left. Emma sat alone in the quiet house and felt something shift inside her. For months, she'd been fighting to prove she wasn't broken. Now she was fighting to prove that being broken didn't mean being beaten. And for the first time since the accident, she believed she might actually win. Emma's phone rang at 5:47 a.m. Monday morning. She'd been awake since 4, staring at the ceiling, going through every possible scenario for tomorrow's hearing. Patricia's name lit up the screen. They filed a counter motion, Patricia said without preamble. Derek's lawyers. They're claiming your injunction is baseless harassment from a disgruntled executive unable to accept her diminished capacity. They're asking the judge to dismiss and sanction us for filing frivolous claims. Emma's stomach dropped. Can they do that? They can try. It won't work. We have solid evidence, but it complicates things. The judge now has to rule on their motion to dismiss before even hearing our injunction. If he grants their motion, we don't get to present evidence. It's over before we start. What are the chances he grants it? Patricia hesitated too long. 20%, maybe 30%. Judge Morrison is old school, conservative. He doesn't like corporate disputes clogging his docket. If Derek's lawyers can convince him this is just internal politics, he'll throw it out. Then we make sure he doesn't see it that way. Emma, I need you to understand something. When we walk into that courtroom tomorrow, Derek's team will try to make you the villain. They'll paint you as bitter, vindictive, unable to accept that you're not fit to lead anymore. Every word you say will be twisted. Every emotion will be used against you. Can you handle that? Emma thought about the boardroom, about Derek's smile, about 4 to 4 in 30 days and everyone looking at her like she was already gone. I can handle it. Good, because we only get one shot at this. Emma hung up and immediately called John. He answered on the first ring, voice alert. He'd been awake too. What's wrong? Derek filed a counter motion. They're trying to get the whole case dismissed before we can present evidence. Can they do that? Apparently, yes. Patricia says there's a 20 to 30% chance the judge throws it out tomorrow without even looking at our evidence. John was quiet. What do you need? I need the evidence to be undeniable. I need it organized so perfectly that the judge can't ignore it even if he wants to. Can you help me with that? I'll be there in 20 minutes. Emma rolled to the window and watched the sun come up over the ocean. The house groaned beneath her. Still broken, still rotting from underneath, but still standing, just like her. John arrived at 6:11 with coffee and a box of donuts. Sophie wasn't with him. Neighbors watching her, he said, told her I had an emergency job, which I guess is true. They spread everything across the kitchen table. 27 pages of printed emails, expense reports, calendar entries, the company charter, Derek's counter motion filing. What's the judge's name? John asked. Morrison, Judge Harold Morrison. John pulled out his phone and started typing. 68 years old, appointed by a Republican governor, known for strict interpretation of corporate law, hates frivolous cases, dismissed 43% of the civil claims that came through his court last year. How do you know that? Public record. Plus, I remember him. My fraud case 6 years ago, the one where I lost my license, went through his court. He's the one who let my old firm off with a fine while I got blacklisted. Emma's blood went cold. The same judge who ruled against you is ruling on my case tomorrow. Yeah. John, if he's biased. He's not biased. He just hates cases that waste his time. My lawyers were sloppy, didn't have the evidence organized, made emotional arguments instead of legal ones. Morrison saw it as a grudge match and dismissed it. John looked at Emma. That's why we're not going to make the same mistake. We're going to walk in there with evidence so clean, so organized, so irrefutable that he can't dismiss it without looking incompetent. They worked for 6 straight hours. John created a timeline, visual color-coded. Impossible to misinterpret. Every Derek email matched to a calendar entry. Every Vertex meeting matched to an expense report. Every instance of self-dealing highlighted in red. This is the story, John said, taping the timeline to the wall. February 18 months ago, Derek initiates contact with Vertex Capital. March through December, 8 meetings on company expense. January 1st mention of succession planning. February email explicitly discussing what happens if you're incapacitated. April, your accident. May, Derek accelerates takeover plans. See the pattern. Emma saw it, clear as day, premeditation, planning. A man who'd been waiting for over a year for Emma to be vulnerable. The judge has to see this, Emma said. Boom. He will, but we need more. We need to show motive. Why is Derek doing this? What does he get out of selling to Vertex? Emma grabbed Derek's employment contract, read through it for the 10th time. Then she saw it, buried in Section 18, in the event of acquisition or change of company ownership, CFO shall receive retention bonus equal to 3% of transaction value. Emma's hands started shaking. 3%. Vertex's offer is estimated at $2 billion. 3% of $2 billion is $60 million, John finished. Derek stands to make $60 million if this sale goes through. That's why he's doing this. Not for the company, not for the shareholders, for $60 million. That's your smoking gun, John pointed at the timeline. Show the judge this. Show him Derek spent 18 months planning a sale that would personally net him $60 million. Then show him Derek's succession planning email from before your accident. Connect the dots. Make it impossible to see this as anything but fraud. Emma felt hope rising, real hope, not desperate hope. Patricia needs to see this, she called. Patricia answered immediately. I've got the motive, Emma said. Derek's contract gives him 3% of any acquisition value. He stands to make $60 million from the Vertex sale. That's why he's been planning this for 18 months. It's not about leadership. It's about his payout. Patricia sucked in a breath. That's massive self-dealing. If we can prove Derek prioritized his personal gain over fiduciary duty to the company, we can prove it. We have the timeline. We have the contract. We have everything. Send it to me. Now I'm rewriting our entire argument. Emma hung up and looked at John. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to win. At 3:15, John left to get Sophie. Emma sat alone with the timeline staring at her from the wall. 18 months of betrayal laid out in colored markers and printer paper. A man who'd waited patiently for her to break so he could profit from the pieces. Her phone rang, unknown number. Emma almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Emma, Derek's voice, smooth, calm, dangerous. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. That's unfortunate, because I have something to say to you. Derek paused. I know you filed the injunction. I know what you're trying to do tomorrow. And I'm giving you one chance to stop this before it destroys you. You're threatening me. I'm trying to save you from yourself. Derek's voice went soft. Emma, you're not thinking clearly. The accident, the trauma, the medication, you're not the person you were. Everyone can see it except you. If you walk into that courtroom tomorrow and lose, and you will lose, the board will have no choice but to remove you entirely. No payout, no retirement package, nothing. You'll be done. I'm not withdrawing the injunction. Then you're making a mistake. But before you finalize that decision, I want you to know something. Derek's voice dropped. That email you found, the succession planning email. It's out of context. I was doing my job planning for contingencies. Every responsible CFO considers succession plans. If you try to twist that into some conspiracy theory, you'll look paranoid and desperate. I also found your Vertex meetings and your $60 million payout clause. Silence. When Derek spoke again, his voice had changed. Cold. Hard. You have no idea what you're doing. No idea who you're fighting. Vertex has lawyers who will bury you. They'll drag out litigation for years, drain your resources, destroy your reputation. Is that really what you want? Years of fighting just to prove you're right? If that's what it takes. You're in a wheelchair, Emma. You can barely take care of yourself. How are you going to sustain a legal war? Emma felt rage rising. The same way I've sustained everything else since the accident. By refusing to quit. That's not strength. That's stubbornness. And it's going to cost you everything. Derek paused. I'm offering you a way out. Withdraw the injunction. Accept early retirement with full benefits. Walk away with your dignity intact. $5 million, Emma. Full retirement package. No fight, no war, just peace. You're offering me money to go away quietly. I'm offering you a future. Take the deal or lose everything tomorrow. Emma looked at the timeline on the wall, looked at 18 months of Derek's planning, looked at $60 million in personal profit built on her destruction. No, she said. Emma. I said no. See you in court, Derek. She hung up. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from fury. Derek had just confirmed everything. The offer proved he was scared. Scared she'd win. Scared the judge would see the truth. Scared his $60 million would disappear. Good. Let him be scared. Her phone rang again. Rebecca this time. Emma, something's happening. Derek just called an emergency executive meeting. He's locked out everyone except his loyalists. I don't know what they're planning, but it's bad. When's the meeting? Now. They're in the boardroom right now. Emma's mind raced. Can you get inside? Record it. Emma, if they catch me. Rebecca, I need to know what he's planning, please. Silence. Then I'll try, but if this costs me my job, it won't, I promise. Emma hung up and immediately called Patricia. Derek's having an emergency meeting with his board allies. Right now, something's happening. Can you prove it? My assistant is trying to get inside. But Patricia, if Derek's moving this fast, he's planning something for tomorrow, a surprise, something we won't see coming. Then we prepare for everything, every possible argument, every possible motion. We walk in there ready for war. At 7 o'clock, John came back with Sophie. The girl ran straight to Emma. Dad says you have a big meeting tomorrow, like when I have spelling tests. Emma smiled despite everything. Kind of like that. Yes. I get nervous before spelling tests. Dad says that means I care. Do you care about your meeting? Very much. Sophie nodded seriously. Then it's okay to be nervous. That means you're going to try your best. Emma felt something crack in her chest. This 7-year-old understood more about courage than most adults. Your dad is helping me get ready, Emma said. Is that okay with you? Sophie looked at John. Are you helping her because she's your friend? John's face did something complicated. Yeah, I guess I am. Good. Friends help each other. That's what Mom always said. Sophie went to do homework at the table. John stood next to Emma, looking at the timeline on the wall. Derek called me, Emma said quietly. Offered me $5 million to withdraw the injunction and retire quietly. What did you say, no? John nodded. Good. Men like Derek think everyone has a price. Proving them wrong is the best revenge. At 8:47, Emma's phone rang. Rebecca. I got in, Rebecca whispered. I'm in the bathroom outside the boardroom. Emma, you were right. Derek's planning something for tomorrow. What? He's bringing witnesses, 3 board members who will testify that you've been erratic, unstable, making irrational decisions since the accident. They're going to say you've been harassing Derek, making baseless accusations, creating a hostile work environment. Emma's stomach dropped. They're going to make me look crazy. Worse, they're going to make it look like you're the problem, like Derek's been trying to help you and you've been attacking him out of paranoia. Did you record any of it? No, they checked everyone's phones at the door. But Emma, I heard them planning their testimony. They were going to coordinate their stories, make it look like a pattern of instability going back months. That's perjury. It's their word against yours, and there's 3 of them. Emma felt the walls closing in. Even with all her evidence, if 3 board members testified that she'd been unstable, the judge might dismiss the case as internal politics. A bitter executive, unable to accept her limitations. Thank you for trying, Emma said. Be careful getting out. She hung up and told John everything. John's jaw clenched. They're rigging the testimony, making sure their stories match. How do I fight that? It's 3 witnesses saying I'm unstable versus me saying they're lying. You fight it by being so prepared that their lies fall apart under scrutiny. John pointed at the timeline. They can say you're unstable all they want, but they can't argue with documented evidence. Emails don't lie. Expense reports don't lie. Derek's $60 million payout clause doesn't lie. But if the judge thinks I'm paranoid, then you show him you're not. You walk in there calm, collected, professional. You let the evidence speak for itself. And when Derek's witnesses try to paint you as crazy, you ask them specific questions they can't answer without admitting the truth. Emma looked at him. Like what? Like, if I'm so unstable, why didn't you remove me earlier? Why wait until I filed an injunction? If you were genuinely concerned about my mental state, where's the documentation? Where are the medical evaluations you should have requested? Where's the paper trail showing you tried to help me? John leaned forward. See, that's the thing about lies. They fall apart when you ask for proof. Emma felt hope again. Real solid hope. Patricia needs to know this strategy. She called. Patricia answered on the first ring. Derek's bringing 3 witnesses to testify. I'm unstable, Emma said. They're going to coordinate their stories. Make it look like I've been erratic for months. Patricia swore. That's dirty, but it's also risky. If we can prove they're lying, it backfires spectacularly. John says we asked for documentation. If they claim they've been concerned about my mental state, where's the paper trail? Where are the emails expressing concern? Where are the requests for medical evaluation? That's brilliant. Patricia's voice got sharp, focused. If they can't produce documentation, their testimony looks like exactly what it is: coordinated perjury to protect Derek. Emma, this might actually work in our favor. Let them testify. Let them commit to their lies under oath. Then we destroy them with their own lack of evidence. They talk strategy for another hour. Every possible question Derek's lawyers might ask, every possible witness testimony, every way to turn their attacks into proof of their lies. At 10:30, Sophie was asleep on the couch again. John covered her with his jacket and turned to Emma. I'm driving you to the courthouse tomorrow, he said, not asking, telling. John, you don't have to. Yeah, I do. You're walking into a room full of people who want to destroy you. You're not doing that alone. He paused. Also, I want to see Derek's face when you win. Emma felt tears burning. What if I don't win? You will. How do you know? Because I've watched you work for 3 days straight. I've seen how you think, how you fight, how you refuse to quit even when everything's against you. Derek's counting on you being weak. But you're not weak. You're the strongest person I've met in years, and tomorrow everyone's going to see that. Emma couldn't speak. No one had talked to her like that since the accident. Everyone treated her like she was fragile, broken, diminished. John Miller looked at her and saw strength. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. Just win. That night, Emma didn't sleep. She went through every document again, memorized every date, every email, every piece of evidence. Patricia had said they only got one shot. Emma was going to make it count. At 5 a.m., her phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. I'm ready. Are you? Emma looked at the timeline still hanging on the wall. 18 months of Derek's betrayal mapped out in colored markers. The truth made visible. She texted back, I'm ready. John arrived at 6 with coffee and Sophie. The girl was still in pajamas, yawning. School doesn't start until 8, John said. She's coming with us. Neighbor can't watch her this early. I don't mind. Sophie climbed into Emma's lap, just climbed right up like it was the most natural thing in the world, and yawned again. Are you going to win your spelling test? I'm going to try. Good. Dad says trying your best is what matters. Even if you don't win. John met Emma's eyes over Sophie's head. But you're going to win. They left at 7. The courthouse was 2 hours away in Raleigh. John drove while Emma reviewed notes and Sophie colored in the back seat. It felt surreal going to fight for her company with a contractor and a 7-year-old as her support team, but it also felt right. They arrived at the courthouse at 8:47. Patricia was waiting outside. Derek's already inside, she said, with 4 lawyers and his 3 witnesses. Emma, they're setting up like this is a murder trial. Good. Let them waste their energy on theater. We'll focus on evidence. Patricia looked at John. Who's this John Miller? He's helping me. Helping how? He organized the evidence, built the timeline, found the motive. He's the reason we're going to win. Patricia studied John for a moment, then nodded. Okay, let's go to war. They walked into the courthouse together. Sophie stayed with a court officer who gave her more coloring pages. Emma rolled down the corridor toward the courtroom and felt her heart pounding. This was it. Everything came down to the next 2 hours. The courtroom doors opened. Emma rolled inside and saw Derek immediately. He sat at the defense table with 4 lawyers in expensive suits. He looked calm, confident, like he'd already won. Then he saw Emma. Their eyes locked across the courtroom. For one moment, Derek's mask slipped. Emma saw fear, real fear. Good. She rolled to the plaintiff's table. Patricia sat beside her. John stood against the back wall, arms folded, watching Derek like a hawk. All rise. The Honorable Judge Harold Morrison presiding. Everyone stood, except Emma. She couldn't stand, would never stand again. She met the judge's eyes anyway. Judge Morrison was exactly as John described, 68, gray-haired, severe expression. He looked at Emma's wheelchair, looked at Derek's army of lawyers, sighed like this was already a waste of his time. Let's get this over with, he said. Mrs. Reeves, your client, filed an emergency injunction. Mr. Walsh's team filed a motion to dismiss for frivolous claims. I've reviewed both filings. I'm inclined to grant the motion to dismiss unless you can convince me this isn't just corporate politics. Patricia stood. Your Honor, this isn't politics. This is fraud. Documented, provable fraud. That's a serious accusation, backed by serious evidence. Patricia walked to the evidence table. Your Honor, we have 18 months of documented meetings between Mr. Walsh and Vertex Capital, a private equity firm attempting to acquire Carter Technologies. We have expense reports showing Mr. Walsh used company funds for these meetings. We have emails proving Mr. Walsh discussed succession planning 2 months before Ms. Carter's accident. And we have Mr. Walsh's employment contract showing he stands to gain $60 million personally if this sale goes through. Judge Morrison's eyebrows rose. $60 million, 3% of transaction value, Your Honor. Mr. Walsh has been planning this deal for over a year and stands to profit enormously. That's textbook self-dealing. Derek's lead lawyer shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is absurd. Mr. Walsh was doing his job exploring strategic options and planning for contingencies. There's nothing illegal about succession planning or speaking with potential partners. Ms. Carter is a disgruntled executive who can't accept that her injury has affected her ability to lead. This injunction is harassment, pure and simple. Ms. Reeves, Judge Morrison looked at Patricia. Response. Show him the timeline, Emma whispered. Patricia pulled out the poster-sized timeline John had created, hung it on an easel where the judge could see it clearly. Every color-coded meeting, every email, every expense report. 18 months of Derek's planning laid out in undeniable clarity. Your Honor, this is not random. This is methodical planning. Note the dates. First Vertex contact February 18 months ago. Succession planning email, February this year. 2 months before Ms. Carter's accident. Acceleration of takeover plans, May immediately after her accident. This isn't contingency planning. This is a man who waited for Ms. Carter to be vulnerable so he could execute a plan that would personally net him $60 million. Judge Morrison studied the timeline. His expression shifted. Mr. Harrison, how do you explain this pattern? Derek's lawyer looked at the timeline, looked at Derek. Your Honor, Mr. Walsh is CFO. It's his responsibility to explore acquisition opportunities. While planning his CEO's removal, Judge Morrison's voice got sharp. That email about succession planning explained that. Standard corporate practice. 2 months before her accident, then 8 months of meetings with Vertex Capital, then a sudden push for leadership change the moment Ms. Carter is injured. Judge Morrison looked at Derek. Mr. Walsh, stand up. Derek stood slowly. Did you write that succession planning email? Yes, Your Honor, but did you meet with Vertex Capital multiple times using company funds? As part of my duties. Does your contract give you a $60 million payout if this sale goes through? Derek's face went white. The contract was negotiated years ago. Answer the question, yes or no. Yes. The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison looked at the timeline again, looked at Derek. His expression was ice. Motion to dismiss denied. This court will hear Ms. Carter's injunction. Mr. Harrison, your client better hope he can explain this timeline, because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like fraud. Emma felt her heart soar. They'd won the first round. Derek's lawyer scrambled. Your Honor, we request a continuance to prepare. Denied. You had 3 days. We're hearing this now. Judge Morrison looked at Patricia. Ms. Reeves, present your case. Patricia smiled. Yes, Your Honor. She went through everything. The emails, the expense reports, the contract clause. Derek's witnesses tried to testify about Emma's instability, but Patricia destroyed them with John's strategy. Mr. Morrison, the board member, not the judge, you testified that you've been concerned about Miss Carter's mental state for months. Do you have any documentation of that concern? The witness hesitated. We discussed it privately. Emails, memos, anything in writing? Well, no, but did you request a medical evaluation? No. Did you consult with a mental health professional? No. Did you create any paper trail whatsoever showing this concern? No. So your concern about Ms. Carter's mental state, which you claim has existed for months, has zero documentation. Yet it appeared in your testimony 3 days after she filed this injunction. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? The witness stammered. Patricia moved on. One by one, Derek's witnesses fell apart. Their stories didn't match. They had no documentation. They couldn't explain why their concern only appeared after Emma filed the injunction. Judge Morrison looked disgusted. Finally, Patricia called Emma to testify. Emma rolled to the witness stand, took the oath, met Derek's eyes across the courtroom. Ms. Carter, Patricia said, when did you first discover Mr. Walsh's relationship with Vertex Capital? 4 days ago, I was reviewing old emails during my recovery and found the February correspondence discussing succession planning. That led me to dig deeper. What did you find? 18 months of secret meetings, self-dealing. A man who'd been planning to remove me long before my accident gave him an excuse. Derek's lawyer objected. Judge Morrison overruled. Ms. Carter, are you mentally fit to run Carter Technologies? Emma looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't walk. I need help with things I used to do myself. But my brain works. My judgment is sound. I built that company from nothing. I know every product, every client, every strategy. A wheelchair doesn't change that. What's changed is that certain people decided I'm easier to remove when I can't stand. The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison leaned forward. Ms. Carter, if I grant this injunction, what happens next? The board investigates Mr. Walsh's conduct. I return to my position. We rebuild without people who prioritize personal profit over company loyalty. And if Mr. Walsh's conduct is as fraudulent as Ms. Reeves claims, then he's removed and prosecuted. Judge Morrison looked at Derek, looked at the timeline, made his decision. Injunction granted. All board votes are frozen pending full investigation of Mr. Walsh's conduct. Mr. Walsh is suspended as CFO, effective immediately. This court will refer this matter to federal prosecutors for potential fraud charges. Emma couldn't breathe. They'd won. Actually won. Derek shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is... Mr. Walsh, sit down before I hold you in contempt. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. I've been a judge for 30 years. I know fraud when I see it. And what I see on that timeline is a man who spent 18 months planning to profit from his CEO's vulnerability. That's not business. That's betrayal. He looked at Emma. Mr. Carter, good luck. You're going to need it rebuilding a company that clearly has rot in its foundation. Thank you, Your Honor. Emma rolled out of that courtroom in a daze. Patricia was grinning. John was waiting in the hallway with Sophie. Did you win your spelling test? Sophie asked. Emma started laughing. Actually laughing. Yes, I won. I knew you would. You tried your best. Emma looked at John over Sophie's head. He was smiling, really smiling. Told you, he said. Outside the courthouse, Emma's phone exploded. 23 calls, 47 texts. Everyone suddenly wanted to talk to her now that she'd won. She ignored them all except one. Rebecca. You did it, Rebecca said, voice shaking. Emma Derek just got escorted out of the building by security. The board's in emergency session. They want you back. When? Now, today, they're voting to reinstate you as CEO with full authority. Emma looked at John, looked at Sophie, looked at the courthouse where she just won the fight of her life. Tell them I'll be there Friday, Emma said. I have some things to finish first. She hung up. John raised an eyebrow. You just won. Shouldn't you be rushing back to take control? I spent 20 years rushing, never stopping, never accepting help, never admitting I couldn't do everything alone. Emma looked at him. That's what got me here. A company full of people like Derek because I was too busy winning to notice the rot underneath. So what now? Now I take time to rebuild the foundation properly, starting with mine. Sophie tugged Emma's sleeve. Can we get ice cream? Dad says we should celebrate when people win their spelling tests. Emma smiled. Ice cream sounds perfect. They got ice cream, sat outside in the sun. Sophie talked about school and her friend Maya and a caterpillar she'd found. John sat quietly watching Emma like he was seeing something new. What? Emma finally asked. You're different than you were 4 days ago. How dumb. You're not fighting alone anymore. Emma looked at Sophie's ice cream-covered face, looked at John, felt something warm in her chest that had nothing to do with victory. No, she said, I'm not. Her phone rang. Patricia. Emma, the federal prosecutors want to meet. They're opening a formal investigation into Derek. They want your testimony and all your evidence. They'll have it. Also, 3 board members just resigned. The ones who testified against you. They know they're facing perjury charges. Emma felt satisfaction, cold and sharp. Good. Emma, Patricia's voice got soft. You did it. You actually did it. Most people in your position would have given up. You didn't. I had help. Emma hung up and looked at John. I need to ask you something, she said. What? When I go back on Friday, when I start rebuilding the company, I'm going to need someone who understands how to find hidden damage. Someone who's not afraid to tell me the truth even when it's ugly. Someone who sees problems other people miss. John's eyes widened. Emma, I'm offering you a job, Chief Operations Officer. Your job is to find every crack, every weakness, every place where rot has taken hold. Fix it before it breaks everything. I'm a contractor. You're an architect who understands systems. You're exactly what I need. I have a daughter. Bring her. We'll set up remote work. You stay in North Carolina. Come to New York when necessary. We build a company that values people who actually care about doing things right. John looked at Sophie. The girl was chasing pigeons, laughing, completely unaware of the conversation happening 10 feet away. Why me? John asked. Because you told me the truth when everyone else lied. Because you helped me when you had nothing to gain. Because your daughter needs to see her father build something good instead of watching from the sidelines. Emma paused. And because I can't do this alone. I'm done pretending I can. John watched Sophie for a long moment. Then he looked at Emma and smiled. Okay, he said, but I'm still not wearing a suit. Emma laughed. Deal. They finished their ice cream, drove back to the beach house. Sophie fell asleep in the car and John carried her inside, settling her on the couch like he'd done a dozen times before. I should go, he said. Let you rest. Big day. Stay, Emma said. Please, just stay for a while. John hesitated. Then he sat down across from her. They talked until midnight about the company, about the rebuilding, about Sophie and what it meant to raise a kid alone, about Emma's father and the beach house and all the years she'd avoided this place because it reminded her of everything she'd lost. You know what's funny, Emma said finally. I thought the accident broke me. Thought losing my legs meant losing everything. But maybe it saved me. Maybe if the truck hadn't hit, I'd still be in that boardroom, letting Derek destroy everything while I was too busy winning to notice. You think getting paralyzed was a good thing? No, it's the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it made me slow down, made me see what I'd been missing, made me realize that strength isn't about standing alone. It's about knowing when to ask for help. John looked at her for a long moment. You're going to be okay, Emma Carter. We're going to be okay, Emma corrected. You and me and Sophie, we're going to rebuild something better than what was there before. John smiled. Yeah, we are. He left at 12:30. Emma sat alone in the quiet house and felt the foundations settle beneath her. Still broken, still damaged. But being fixed now, being rebuilt from the ground up by someone who understood that true strength came from addressing the damage honestly instead of covering it with pretty paint and expensive lies. Friday, Emma returned to Manhattan, rolled into the boardroom where Derek had once smiled at her like she was already gone. 5 board members waited. The 4 who'd remain loyal, and 1 new appointee, a disability rights advocate Emma had personally chosen. Welcome back, James Morrison said. We have a lot of work to do. Emma smiled. Then let's get started. But this time she wasn't fighting alone. This time she had John Miller on video call from North Carolina, showing the board his analysis of every department, Every contract, every place where shortcuts had weakened the company foundation. This time she had Patricia reviewing every legal document to ensure no more Derek Walshes could hide rot beneath corporate polish. This time she had Sophie's drawing taped to her laptop, a stick figure in a wheelchair with a crown, and the words, "You won" in purple crayon. And this time Emma understood that winning wasn't about standing alone at the top. It was about building something strong enough that everyone could stand together. Even the ones in wheelchairs. The boardroom felt different now. Emma rolled in at 9 a.m. Monday morning, exactly 1 week after the courthouse victory, and saw 5 faces instead of 8. James Morrison, Linda Chen, Robert Park, 2 empty chairs where Derek's allies used to sit, and 1 new face, Dr. Sarah Williams, disability rights advocate, former Paralympic athlete woman who'd built 3 nonprofits from wheelchair. "Let's start," Emma said. No preamble, no wasted time. They had a company to save. "Financial report first," James said. He looked older than he had 2 weeks ago. Tired. The Vertex situation scared investors. Stocks down 18%. 3 major clients put contracts on hold pending leadership stability. We're hemorrhaging credibility. "How long do we have?" Emma asked. 6 weeks, maybe 8. After that, we start losing contracts we can't afford to lose. Emma pulled out her laptop. John's analysis filled the screen. Then we stopped the bleeding. John Miller, our new chief operations officer, ran a complete structural analysis. Found 47 points of operational weakness. Places where cutting corners saved money short-term, but created long-term vulnerability. Linda Chen leaned forward. "Like what?" "Like our server infrastructure. We've been running on outdated systems for 3 years because Derek said upgrading was unnecessary expense. John's analysis shows we're 1 major breach away from losing everything. Customer data, proprietary code, everything." The room went silent. "How much to fix it?" Robert Park asked. $12 million. Immediately. James whistled. "Emma, we don't have $12 million right now. Not with the stock drop. Then we make cuts elsewhere. We eliminate the executive bonuses Derek inflated. We renegotiate vendor contracts. We stop paying for corporate apartments nobody uses. John found $8 million in wasteful spending. We reallocate that to infrastructure." "That's still $4 million short," Linda said. Emma looked at each of them. "I'm donating my salary for the next year. That's $3.2 million. Who's with me?" Nobody spoke. Then James nodded. "I'm in. Half salary for a year." Linda raised her hand. "Me too." Robert hesitated, then, "Fine, half salary, but Emma, this better work." "It will work because we're not building on rot anymore. We're fixing the foundation first, even if it's expensive and slow and nobody sees it. That's how you build something that lasts." Dr. Williams spoke for the first time. "I like this approach. Most companies focus on appearances. You're focusing on substance. Because appearances got us Derek Walsh." Emma pulled up another document. "Which brings me to the next issue. We need to restructure the entire executive team, not just remove the bad actors. We need to change how leadership works here." "What are you proposing?" James asked. "Accountability measures. Every executive reports quarterly to an independent review board. Financial decisions over $5 million require dual sign-off. No more single-person control over major contracts. And most importantly, whistleblower protection. If someone sees something wrong, they need to be able to report it without risking their career." "That's a lot of oversight," Robert said. "It'll slow us down." "Good. Derek moved fast. Look where that got us. I'd rather move slow and move right." The vote was unanimous. They worked until 7 p.m. By the time Emma rolled out of that building, she'd restructured 3 departments, fired 4 executives who'd enabled Derek's schemes, and approved John's complete operational overhaul. She was exhausted. Her phone rang as she reached her car. "John." "How'd it go?" he asked. "We're burning it all down and starting over. It's terrifying and necessary, and I think we might actually survive." "That's the Emma Carter I know." John paused. "Sophie wants to talk to you." A rustling sound, then Sophie's voice. "Did you have a good day at work?" Emma felt her chest warm. "I had a hard day, but hard days are sometimes good days. Dad says hard days make you stronger, like when I had to learn multiplication. It was really hard, but now I know it. Your dad is very smart. I know. Can you come visit this weekend? Dad's fixing the porch, and I want to show you my new drawings. Emma looked at her calendar. Meetings from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day this week. A shareholder call Thursday. Emergency strategy session Friday. She should say no, should focus on the company, should prioritize work above everything else, like she'd done for 20 years. I'll be there Saturday morning, Emma said. Sophie squealed, yeah, I'll make you breakfast. I can make toast and eggs. Well, Dad makes the eggs, but I can butter the toast. Emma smiled. I can't wait. She hung up and sat in the parking garage for a long moment. 6 months ago, if someone had told her she'd be planning weekend trips to have breakfast with a 7-year-old, she would have laughed. Now it was the only thing on her calendar she didn't want to cancel. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You think you won? You didn't. Derek. Emma's hands tightened on her phone. Derek was suspended under federal investigation facing potential fraud charges. But he was still fighting, still trying to make her afraid. She blocked the number and drove home. Tuesday morning brought the first major test. Global Systems, Carter Technologies' biggest client, $42 million annual contract called an emergency meeting. Emma took the call with James and Dr. Williams on either side of her. Ms. Carter, the Global Systems CEO said. His name was Richard Torres and his voice was ice. We're concerned, very concerned. Your CFO was arrested. Your board is in chaos. We can't have our systems dependent on a company that might collapse. I understand your concern, Emma said calmly. That's why I'm calling to assure you personally Carter Technologies is more stable now than it's been in 2 years. We've removed the people who were creating instability. We've implemented new oversight measures. And we're investing $12 million in infrastructure upgrades that will make our systems more secure than ever. That's what you say now. How do I know you'll still be CEO in 6 months? How do I know this isn't just temporary damage control? Emma took a breath. This was the moment, the test. Say the wrong thing and lose $42 million. Lose the client that every other client watched. Lose the first domino that would knock down everything else. Mr. Torres, I'm going to be honest with you. I almost lost this company. Not because of my injury, because I was so focused on growth that I didn't notice the rot underneath. My CFO was stealing from us for 18 months, and I missed it. That's on me. But I'm fixing it now, not with PR spin, with actual structural change. If you stay with us, you won't just get the same company you had before. You'll get a better one. Silence on the other end. I appreciate the honesty, Torres said finally. But I need more than promises. I need proof. What kind of proof? Let me send my team to audit your systems. Complete transparency. If they say you're solid, we stay. If they find problems, we walk. Emma's stomach dropped. An audit would expose everything. Every weakness, every corner Derek had cut, every system running on duct tape and hope. But refusing would lose the client immediately. Agreed, Emma said. When can your team start? Thursday. And Ms. Carter, I hope you're right about this. Because if you're wrong, you won't just lose our contract. You'll lose your company. He hung up. James looked at Emma like she'd lost her mind. An audit. Now, Emma, we're still cataloging Derek's damage. We don't know everything that's broken yet. Then we find out fast. Emma pulled out her phone and called John. I need you in New York tomorrow. We have an audit Thursday, and if we fail, everything collapses. I can't leave Sophie. Bring her, please. I need you. John was quiet for 3 seconds. Okay, we'll drive up tonight. Emma hung up and looked at James and Dr. Williams. We have 48 hours to assess every system document, every problem, and create a plan to fix everything. We work through the night if we have to. Mama, that's impossible. Derek thought removing me was impossible. The judge thought I couldn't prove fraud in 6 days. We did both. We can do this. Dr. Williams smiled. I'm in. Let's get to work. They worked until midnight. John arrived at 11:47 p.m. with Sophie asleep in his arms and 3 laptops in his backpack. Emma had arranged a hotel suite. John put Sophie to bed in the bedroom and came back out. Show me everything, he said. They went through every system. John's architectural training meant he understood structural integrity, not just for buildings, but for digital infrastructure, workflow processes, organizational hierarchy. He saw patterns Emma missed, saw where Derek had created dependencies that made the company vulnerable, saw where cutting corners had created cascading risks. At 4 a.m., John leaned back. Okay, I've got the full picture. It's bad. How bad? Without the infrastructure upgrade, you're 6 months from catastrophic failure. With the upgrade and the process changes you're planning, you're solid for 5 years minimum. Can I explain that to an auditor in a way they'll believe? If you let me help, I can create a visual presentation that shows exactly where the damage is, exactly how we're fixing it, and exactly why the fixes work. Architecture is just storytelling with data. I'll tell the story. Emma felt hope rising. Okay, we present together. You show them the structural problems. I show them the leadership changes. We convince them we're not just surviving, we're rebuilding stronger. John nodded. Then let's build the presentation. They worked until Sophie woke up at 7. The girl stumbled out in pajamas, saw Emma and John surrounded by laptops and coffee cups, and said, "Did you have a sleepover?" John laughed, actually laughed despite the exhaustion. Something like that. Come on, kiddo, let's get breakfast. Can Emma come? John looked at Emma. Emma looked at the laptop, at the presentation that was only half finished, at $42 million in contracts hanging by a thread. Emma has to work, John said gently, but she needs to eat. Sophie's voice was so matter-of-fact, so certain. Dad says everyone needs to eat breakfast or their brain doesn't work good. Emma smiled. Your dad is right, 30 minutes. Then I come back to work. They went to the hotel restaurant. Sophie ordered pancakes and talked about everything except the audit, about her school and her friend Maya and the caterpillar that had turned into a butterfly. Emma listened and felt the knots in her shoulders start to loosen. Why are you working so hard? Sophie asked suddenly. Because a lot of people depend on my company. If I fail, they lose their jobs. Sophie considered this. That's a lot of responsibility. It is. Do you like it? No one had asked Emma that in years. Did she like running Carter Technologies? Or had she just been doing it so long she'd forgotten there was a choice? I like building things, Emma said slowly. I like solving problems. I like knowing that what I create helps people. But sometimes I forget why I'm doing it. I get so focused on winning that I forget what I'm winning for. That sounds sad. It was sad for a long time, but it's getting better now. Sophie smiled. Because you have friends helping you. Dad says everything's easier when you have friends. Emma looked at John. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Warmth. Understanding. Something else. Your dad is very smart, Emma said again. I know, Sophie said. That's why I listened to him. They went back to work. John finished the presentation while Emma prepped for the audit. At 2 p.m., she ran through the entire pitch with James and Dr. Williams. At 5 p.m., she ran through it again alone. At 7 p.m., John made her stop. You're ready, he said. Over-preparing now just makes you anxious. I need this to work. It will work because you're not lying, you're not spinning, you're telling the truth about the damage and showing them the real plan to fix it. Auditors respect honesty. How do you know? Because the audit that destroyed my old firm came down to one thing: we lied. Said everything was fine when it wasn't. If we'd been honest about the problems and shown a real plan to fix them, we would have survived. John looked at Emma steadily. Don't make our mistake. Tell the truth even when it's ugly. Thursday morning, the global systems audit team arrived. 3 people, a systems engineer, a financial analyst, and a risk assessment specialist. They looked at Emma's wheelchair, looked at John standing next to her, looked skeptical. Let's see what you've got, the lead auditor said. John started the presentation, showed them every system, every vulnerability, every corner Derek had cut. Didn't hide anything, didn't minimize, just laid it all out with brutal honesty. This is what we inherited, John said. This is what we're fixing. Here's the timeline. Here's the budget. Here's why it works. The auditors asked hard questions, technical questions, financial questions, questions designed to expose weakness or ignorance. John answered every single one. Emma watched him work and realized something: John Miller wasn't just good at finding damage. He was exceptional at explaining it, at making complex systems understandable, at turning technical problems into clear narratives. He'd wasted 6 years doing handyman work because some corporate firm had scapegoated him. That firm's loss, Emma's gain. After 2 hours, the lead auditor leaned back. I'm impressed. Most companies would have hidden this damage, pretended everything was fine. You're showing us every crack and proving you can fix it. That takes courage. Or desperation, Emma said honestly. We can't afford to lose your contract. But more than that, we can't afford to lie anymore. Lying is what got us here. The auditor smiled. I like you, Ms. Carter. You remind me why I got into this business. To find the companies that actually give a damn. Does that mean we pass? It means we're recommending contract renewal with quarterly check-ins to monitor progress. You've got 6 months to implement everything you're promising. If you deliver, we'll extend for 5 years. Emma felt her chest unlock. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just do what you said you'd do. The auditors left. Emma sat in the conference room and felt tears coming. Relief, exhaustion, gratitude, everything hitting at once. John touched her shoulder. You did it. We did it. Emma, this was your company, your fight, your victory. No. Emma looked at him. A month ago, I would have said that, would have taken all the credit and all the pressure. But I'm done doing that. This was our victory, yours and mine and everyone else who refused to let Derek win. That's how it works now. John smiled. I can live with that. Friday afternoon, Emma called the company-wide meeting she'd been planning. 247 employees gathered in the main conference hall, or joined by video. She rolled to the front and felt 247 pairs of eyes watching. Some looked scared, some looked angry. All of them looked like they wanted answers. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, Emma said. The last month has been hell. We lost our CFO to federal fraud charges. We lost 3 board members to perjury investigations. We lost 18% of our stock value and came within days of losing our biggest client. Anyone who tells you everything is fine is lying. Everything is not fine, but we're fixing it. She pulled up John's infrastructure analysis on the big screen, showed them every vulnerability, every fix, every timeline. This is what Derek Walsh left us. A company that looked successful but was rotting from the inside. We're rebuilding the foundation. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be slow. And it's going to require every person in this room to work harder than they've ever worked. But when we're done, Carter Technologies won't just survive. It'll be stronger than it's ever been. A hand went up. Young engineer, mid-20s, scared eyes. Ms. Carter, how do we know this won't happen again? How do we know the next CFO won't do the same thing? Because we're changing the rules. Every executive now reports to an independent review board. Every major financial decision requires dual sign-off. And we've implemented whistleblower protection. If you see something wrong, you can report it without fear of retaliation. I'm putting my personal cell number in the employee portal. If something feels wrong, you call me directly. Murmurs rippled through the room. Another hand. Older woman. Finance department. What about the people who enabled Derek? The executives who knew what he was doing and said nothing. Gone. We fired 4 executives last week. 2 more are under investigation. We're not protecting anyone who prioritized personal benefit over company integrity. What about you? The room went silent. Emma looked at the woman. What about me? You were CEO when this happened. Derek reported to you. How did you miss 18 months of fraud? The question was fair. Brutal but fair. Emma took a breath. I missed it because I was so focused on growth that I stopped paying attention to how we were growing. I trusted people I should have questioned. I prioritized results over integrity. That's on me. I can't change the past, but I can promise you this, I'm not making that mistake again. I'm slowing down. I'm asking hard questions. I'm accepting help from people who see what I miss. And if I screw up again, I'll own that too. The woman studied Emma for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, I believe you. The meeting went 90 minutes. Emma answered every question, took responsibility for every failure, made promises she wasn't sure she could keep but would kill herself trying. When it ended, people didn't rush out. They lingered, came up to Emma one by one, shook her hand, told her they were glad she was back, told her they'd been scared but now felt hope. A young programmer couldn't be more than 23 rolled up in tears. Thank you for staying, she said. I have cerebral palsy. I use a wheelchair too. When you came back after your accident, it meant everything to me. It meant I could still have a future here, even if my body doesn't work the way other people's do. Emma felt her throat close. What's your name? Melissa. Melissa Torres. How long have you been with the company? 2 years. I'm in the development team. Are you good at your job? I think so. My reviews have been excellent. Emma pulled out her phone, made a note. I want you at the next company meeting. Not as an employee, as a speaker. I want you to tell everyone what it's like working here as a person with a disability. What we do well, what we do poorly, what we need to change. Can you do that? Melissa's eyes went wide. You want me to speak at a company meeting? I want you to help me make this company better. Will you help me? Yes, absolutely yes. Emma smiled. Good, I'll be in touch. As Melissa rolled away, John appeared at Emma's side. That was good, what you just did. I should have done it years ago. Should have been asking these questions all along. You're asking them now. That's what matters. That evening, Emma took John and Sophie to dinner. Real dinner. Not working dinner, not business dinner, just dinner with people she cared about. Sophie talked nonstop about her day exploring Manhattan, about the hot dog vendor who'd given her extra mustard, about the street performer doing magic tricks, about everything with the unbridled enthusiasm of a 7-year-old in the big city. Can we come back? Sophie asked. Not for work, just to visit. Emma looked at John. I'd like that. Later, after Sophie fell asleep in the hotel room, John and Emma sat in the sweet living room with coffee. Neither of them was drinking. I need to ask you something, Emma said. What? When I offered you the COO position, you said yes because you hated men like Derek. Is that still why you're here? John looked at her for a long moment. No, though. Then why? Because somewhere between the foundation inspection and the courthouse and the audit, I stopped seeing this as revenge against people like Derek. I started seeing it as building something good with someone I respect. He paused. You're not who I thought you'd be, Emma Carter. What did you think I'd be? Another corporate shark. Another person who cared more about winning than about being right. But you're not that. You're someone who admitted she was wrong, who accepted help, who's rebuilding her company the hard way because it's the right way. John smiled. I like working with you. That's why I'm still here. Emma felt warmth spreading through her chest. I like working with you too. Good, because I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing this for a long time. Is that okay with you? Yeah, John's voice was soft. That's more than okay. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside Manhattan glittered, the city that had almost destroyed Emma, the city where she'd lost everything and fought to get it back, the city that would always be part of her story. But now it was part of a different story. Not the story of a woman fighting alone. The story of a woman who learned that strength came from letting people help, from building teams instead of empires, from accepting that broken didn't mean beaten. Her phone rang. Patricia. Emma, Derek took a plea deal. He's pleading guilty to fraud, self-dealing, and conspiracy. 15 years federal prison, $60 million in restitution. He's done. Emma closed her eyes. It's really over. It's really over. You won completely. Emma hung up and told John. How do you feel? He asked. Relieved, sardarnan, angry that it took this long, grateful it's done. Emma looked at him. I thought winning would feel different. Thought I'd feel triumphant. Instead, I just feel tired. That's because real victory isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about surviving long enough to rebuild something better. Is that what we're doing? Building something better? John smiled. Yeah, I think we are. Emma looked at Sophie sleeping in the next room, at John sitting across from her, at the city outside that had tried to break her and failed, at her wheelchair that wasn't a cage anymore. Just a chair, just a tool, just part of who she was now. I'm glad you came to fix my porch, Emma said. John laughed. I'm glad you had a broken porch. It wasn't the porch that was broken. No, but we fixed it anyway. They sat together until midnight, talking about the company, about Sophie's school, about the beach house and whether Emma would keep it or sell it, about everything and nothing. And for the first time in 20 years, Emma felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Not at the top of a corporate ladder, not fighting alone, just sitting with someone who gave a damn, building something good, one honest conversation at a time. 6 months passed like water through a broken dam, fast, chaotic, impossible to control. Emma lived between Manhattan and North Carolina, between boardrooms and the beach house, between the woman she'd been and the woman she was becoming. The infrastructure overhaul took 4 months instead of 3, cost $14 million instead of 12. But it worked. Carter Technologies systems went from vulnerable to fortress-level secure. Global Systems extended their contract for 5 years. 2 other major clients followed. The stock recovered, slowly, 30% in 3 months, 45% in 5 months. Investors started calling again, not to question, to invest. But the real changes were quieter, harder to measure, more permanent. Emma created the Accessibility Initiative, retrofitted the entire office building for wheelchair users, hired 3 employees with disabilities, mandated accessibility reviews for every product Carter Technologies built. Melissa Torres became the program director. The young programmer who'd thanked Emma through tears now ran a department. John Miller transformed from contractor to COO to something Emma didn't have words for yet. He worked from North Carolina, mostly came to New York twice a month, video, called into every major meeting. Sophie came with him sometimes. The 7-year-old had her own desk in Emma's office, small desk, purple, covered in drawings and homework. The employees loved her. Sophie had a way of making everything feel more human, more real. But something else was changing too. Something Emma felt every time John walked into a room. Every time their hands accidentally touched, reaching for the same document. Every time he looked at her and she forgot what she was saying. She was falling for him. It terrified her. Emma Carter didn't do falling. She did conquering, controlling, winning. Falling meant losing control, meant vulnerability, meant risking something that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with her heart. It was Thursday afternoon, 6 months and 2 weeks after the courthouse victory, when everything shifted. Emma was reviewing Q4 projections when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Emma Carter. Ms. Carter, this is Officer Davidson, North Carolina State Police. We're at 2847 Ocean View Drive, your beach house. There's been an incident. Emma's blood went cold. What kind of incident? Break-in. Looks like someone tried to force entry through the back door. Neighbors called it in. The house is secure now, but we need you to come verify if anything's missing. I'll be there in 4 hours. Emma hung up and immediately called John. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. Tried a 3rd time and panic started rising because John always answered. Always. Unless her office door burst open. Rebecca, breathless, face white. Emma, something happened. John's in the hospital. The world stopped. What? Sophie's school called. Emergency contact. John collapsed during pickup. They think it's his heart. He's at Coastal Medical Center. Emma, they said it's serious. Emma was moving before Rebecca finished talking. Grabbed her phone, her bag, her keys. Cancel everything. I'm going to North Carolina now. Emma, you have the investor call at 4. Cancel it. And the board meeting tomorrow. Cancel everything. Emma was in her car 12 minutes later. The drive to North Carolina took 4 hours normally. Emma made it in 3 and 20 minutes. Broke every speed limit. Didn't care. John was in the hospital. John might be dying. John who'd saved her company, who'd taught her what strength really meant, who'd looked at her wheelchair and seen a person instead of a liability. John who she'd been too afraid to tell she was falling in love with. Emma's hands shook on the steering wheel. She kept thinking about the last thing they'd said to each other. Tuesday night video call, John showing her the final infrastructure audit results. Everything passing, everything solid. They'd celebrated with coffee through screens, and Sophie had photobombed wearing a superhero cape. Emma had laughed and said, "Tell Sophie she's my favorite employee." John had smiled and said, "I'll pass that along. See you Friday." See you Friday. Now it was Thursday and John was in a hospital and Emma couldn't breathe. She pulled into Coastal Medical Center at 6:47 p.m. Ran over her words, not ran, rolled, pushed her wheelchair as fast as it would go through the automatic doors to the reception desk past people who stared. John Miller, Emma said. He was brought in this afternoon, heart issue. Where is he? The receptionist checked her computer. I see you, 3rd floor. Are you family? I'm his employer. His daughter. Where's his daughter? 3rd floor waiting room with a social worker. Emma took the elevator. 3rd floor, ICU. The smell hit her immediately, an antiseptic and fear, and the particular kind of quiet that only existed in hospitals. The waiting room was small. Sophie sat in a plastic chair wearing her school uniform, face blotchy from crying. A social worker sat next to her, talking softly. Sophie saw Emma and ran. Emma caught her. The girl crashed into her lap, arms tight around Emma's neck, and sobbed. "He collapsed," Sophie said between gasps. "He was picking me up and he just fell down and I didn't know what to do, and the teachers called the ambulance and they wouldn't let me ride with him, and I want my dad." "I know, sweetheart, I know. I'm here now. We're going to take care of him." "Is he going to die like Mommy?" Emma's heart shattered. "No, your dad is strong. He's going to be okay." "How do you know?" "Because I know your dad. He doesn't quit. Ever." A doctor emerged from the ICU doors. 50-something woman, tired eyes, scrubs covered in coffee stains. "Family of John Miller." Emma rolled forward with Sophie still clinging to her. "I'm Emma Carter. John works for me. His daughter is here." "What's happening?" "Mr. Miller had a cardiac event. Ventricular tachycardia. His heart was beating irregularly, not pumping blood effectively. We've stabilized him, but he needs surgery. Immediately. We need to install a defibrillator to prevent future episodes." "How serious is this?" The doctor's face was grave. "Without surgery, he's at high risk for another event, potentially fatal. With surgery, his prognosis is good. But we need family consent. Is there a spouse, parents?" "His wife died 2 years ago. Parents are deceased. There's just Sophie. Then we need legal guardianship paperwork. Or we can't." "I'll sign whatever you need. I'll take financial responsibility. Just save him." The doctor hesitated. "Miss Carter, you're not family. Legally, I can't." "Then make me family. Emergency custody, whatever the paperwork is called. I don't care. John Miller is the most important person in my life, and if he dies because of legal technicalities, I will burn this hospital to the ground. Do you understand me?" The doctor studied Emma's face, saw the fury, saw the fear, saw the love Emma hadn't admitted even to herself. "Wait here," the doctor said. "Let me talk to legal." She disappeared. Sophie looked up at Emma. "Are you going to be my mom if Daddy dies?" "Your dad's not going to die. But if he does, would you take care of me?" Emma looked at this 7-year-old girl who'd lost her mother, whose father was fighting for his life in the next room, who was asking the most devastating question Emma had ever heard. "Yes," Emma said. "If something happens to your dad, which it won't, I will take care of you, I promise." Sophie nodded and buried her face in Emma's shoulder. 20 minutes later, the doctor returned with papers. "Emergency medical power of attorney. Sign here, initial here, and here. This gives you decision-making authority for Mr. Miller's care." Emma signed without reading. She'd sign anything, sell anything, burn her whole company to the ground if it meant saving John's life. "He's going into surgery in 30 minutes, the doctor said. "Surgery takes approximately 4 hours. If everything goes well, he'll be in recovery by midnight." "Can I see him first?" 5 minutes. ICU doesn't allow children, so Sophie needs to stay here. Sophie gripped Emma harder. "I want to see Daddy." "Sweetheart, I'll tell him you love him. I promise, but right now I need you to be brave for a few more minutes. Can you do that?" Sophie nodded, tears streaming. Emma followed the doctor through the ICU doors. The room was bright, too bright. Machines beeped. John lay in a bed surrounded by monitors, EV's lines in both arms, oxygen cannula in his nose. His eyes were closed. He looked smaller than Emma had ever seen him. Vulnerable. Human. 5 minutes, the doctor said and left. Emma rolled to John's bedside, took his hand. His skin was cold. "John," she whispered, "I don't know if you can hear me, but I need you to fight. Sophie needs you. The company needs you. I need you." John's eyes flickered open, unfocused, confused. Then he saw Emma and something cleared. "Emma, I'm here. Don't talk. Save your strength." "Sophie, she's safe. She's in the waiting room. She loves you so much, John. She's so scared." "Tell her," John's breath hitched. "Tell her I'm not leaving her. Tell her Daddy's not done yet. You tell her yourself, after surgery, you're going to be fine." "Emma," John's hand tightened weakly on hers. "If something happens, nothing's going to happen. If it does, take care of her. Please, you're the only person I trust." Emma felt tears burning. I already promised her, but you're going to be fine. You hear me? You don't get to do. Not when we're just starting to figure this out. Figure what out? Emma looked at his face, at the man who'd fixed her broken foundation, who'd taught her that asking for help was strength, who'd stood beside her when everyone else walked away, who'd looked at her wheelchair and seen Emma not limitations. This, Emma said, us, whatever this is, I'm not losing you before I figure out what it means. John's lips curved into a tiny smile. Emma Carter, are you saying you care about me? I'm saying if you die on this table, I'm going to be really angry. Noted. John's eyes started to close. Emma. Yeah. Thank you for everything. The doctor appeared. Time's up. We need to prep him. Emma squeezed John's hand once more. Don't you dare quit on me, Miller. Wouldn't dream of it. They wheeled him away. Emma sat in the ICU hallway and let herself cry. Quiet, shaking sobs she'd been holding back since Rebecca burst into her office 6 hours ago. John had to survive. Had to. The alternative was unthinkable. She rolled back to the waiting room. Sophie was coloring with the social worker, but looked up immediately. I saw him, Emma said. He's going into surgery now. He told me to tell you he's not leaving you. He said Daddy's not done yet. Did he look okay? Emma chose her words carefully. He looked tired, but strong, like someone ready to fight. Can we wait here until he's done? We're not going anywhere. The social worker stood. I'll leave you two. Call if you need anything. She left. Emma and Sophie sat alone in the waiting room. It was 7:52 p.m. Surgery would take 4 hours. Midnight before they knew anything. Sophie curled up in Emma's lap and Emma held her, stroked her hair, whispered that everything would be okay, even though she had no idea if that was true. At 8:30, Emma's phone rang. James Morrison. Emma, where are you? You missed the investor call. The board meeting tomorrow. We need you there. John's in surgery. Heart issue. I'm at the hospital in North Carolina. Silence. Then, is he okay? I don't know yet. Surgery takes 4 hours. Emma, I'm sorry, that's terrible. But the board meeting, it's critical. The restructuring vote. We need you. Cancel it. We can't cancel it. This determines the entire company structure for the next 5 years. If you're not there, then vote without me. I trust your judgment. Emma. James, I have spent 20 years putting the company first. Before my health, before my relationships, before everything. John Miller saved my company, saved me, and right now he's fighting for his life, and his 7-year-old daughter is terrified. So no, I'm not leaving. The company will survive one meeting without me. Vote however you think is best. I'll live with the results. Emma hung up. Sophie looked at her. You're staying. I'm staying. What about your work? Work can wait. You and your dad can't. Sophie hugged her tighter. Thank you. At 9:15, Emma's phone rang again. Patricia this time. Emma, I heard about John. How is he? In surgery. We won't know for a few more hours. I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do? Actually, yes. I need legal papers drawn up. Emergency custody designation for Sophie Miller. If something happens to John, I want legal authority to take care of her. Can you do that? Emma, that's a big commitment. Have you thought this through? I promised her I'm not breaking promises to a 7-year-old. Can you do it or not? I'll have papers ready by tomorrow morning. Emma. Yeah. This is really happening, isn't it? You and John? Emma looked at Sophie asleep in her arms. Yeah, I think it is. She hung up. The hours crawled. Emma dozed. Woke up. Dozed again. Nurses came and went. Other families rotated through the waiting room. Someone's grandmother. Someone's teenage son. Everyone waiting for news. Everyone scared. At 11:47 p.m., the doctor emerged. Emma jolted awake. Sophie stirred. Ms. Carter, the doctor said, and Emma couldn't read her face. The surgery went well. We successfully implanted the defibrillator. Mr. Miller is in recovery. He's stable. Emma felt her entire body unlock. He's okay. He's okay. He'll need monitoring for the next 48 hours. But barring complications, he should make a full recovery. Sophie started crying. Relief this time, not fear. Can we see him? Emma asked. He's still sedated. Probably won't wake up until morning. You should both go home. Get some sleep. Come back tomorrow. We're staying, Emma said firmly. If he wakes up and we're not here, the doctor smiled. I understand there's a family room on the second floor with couches, more comfortable than these plastic chairs. Emma took Sophie to the family room. It was small but quiet. Couches, blankets, a TV playing muted news. Sophie fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from fear and tears. Emma sat awake, watching Sophie breathe, thinking about John and recovery, thinking about how close she'd come to losing him before she'd even told him what he meant to her. Her phone buzzed. Text from James Board voted. Restructuring passed unanimously. Emma, we also voted on something else. Voted to give you full autonomy on operational decisions. No more board approval needed for anything under $50 million. We trust you. Hope John's okay. Emma read the message 3 times. The board trusted her. After everything. After Derek. After the chaos. They'd given her the power she'd been fighting for. And all Emma felt was nothing. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just exhaustion. Because she'd spent 20 years fighting for power, for control, for the right to lead without question. And now sitting in a hospital waiting room with a 7-year-old asleep on her lap and the man she loved recovering from surgery, Emma realized something. Power didn't matter. Control didn't matter. Winning didn't matter. What mattered was this: being here, choosing people over profits, choosing love over ambition, choosing to stay when everything else screamed to go. At 6:23 a.m., a nurse found Emma. Mr. Miller's awake. He's asking for you. Emma woke Sophie gently. Your dad's awake. They went to John's room. He was propped up in bed, looking exhausted but alive. So wonderfully, miraculously alive. Sophie ran to him. John hugged her with one arm. The other was still hooked to IVs and whispered things Emma couldn't hear. Father-daughter things, private things. Emma stayed near the door, gave them space. But John looked over Sophie's head and met Emma's eyes. You stayed, he said. Of course I stayed. The board meeting happened without me. They voted on restructuring. Everything passed. John, I need to tell you something. What? Emma rolled closer. Sophie looked between them, sensing something. I signed emergency medical power of attorney yesterday, Emma said. Made decisions about your surgery. I also asked my lawyer to draw up custody papers. If something had happened to you, I'd legally become Sophie's guardian. John's eyes widened. Emma, I know it's presumptuous. I know we haven't talked about this, but I promised Sophie I'd take care of her, and I'm not breaking promises to your daughter. So if that's too much, if I overstep, Emma, John's voice was rough, that's not too much. That's everything. What? You left your company during the most important board meeting in years. You drove 4 hours. You signed legal papers. You promised to take care of my daughter. John's eyes were bright. Emma, do you understand what that means to me? I care about you, both of you, more than I thought I could care about anything. Sophie looked at Emma. Does that mean you're going to be my mom? Emma's breath caught. Sophie, because I'd like that. You're already kind of like my mom. You help me with homework. You bring me snacks. You stayed all night when Dad was sick. That's what moms do. Emma looked at John. He was smiling through tears. I can't replace your mom, Emma said carefully. Your mom was special, irreplaceable. But I can be someone else. Someone who loves you and takes care of you and will always be here, if that's okay with you. Sophie threw her arms around Emma's neck. That's okay with me. Over Sophie's head, Emma met John's eyes. They said everything words couldn't. Later, when Sophie wasn't listening, when John was stronger, they'd talk about what this meant, what they were becoming. But right now, this was enough, the 3 of them, together, in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and second chances. John stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Emma stayed with him, worked from her laptop, took video calls from John's hospital room. Sophie did homework at the foot of John's bed. The company didn't collapse. The world didn't end. Everything Emma thought required her constant presence somehow survived without her. It was revolutionary. On the 4th day, they released John. Emma drove them back to the beach house, the place where everything had started, where John had found water damage and Emma had found a reason to keep fighting. The porch was fixed now. Solid, safe. Emma rolled onto it without fear of falling through. You know what's funny, Emma said. They were watching the ocean while Sophie played on the beach. We fixed your foundation. My foundation. The company's foundation. Everything's solid now. Is that funny? John asked. It's ironic. 6 months ago, everything was collapsing. Now everything's rebuilt stronger than before. Emma looked at him. I never thanked you properly. For what? For seeing me when everyone else saw a wheelchair. For telling me the truth when everyone else lied. For teaching me that asking for help isn't weakness. Emma, you taught yourself that. I just pointed you in the right direction. No, you did more than that. You saved me. Not just my company. Me. John took her hand. His fingers were warm, solid, real. You saved me too. I was drowning after Lisa died. Going through the motions. Raising Sophie but barely existing. You reminded me why I got into this work. Why I care about building things the right way. So we saved each other. Yeah, I guess we did. Sophie ran up the beach. Can we have dinner on the porch like a picnic? Emma smiled. That sounds perfect. They had dinner on the porch. Pizza from the town place that made crust Sophie actually liked. Lemonade, chocolate chip cookies. Nothing fancy, nothing corporate. Just 3 people eating together while the sun set over the ocean. I'm glad you're not dead, Dad, Sophie said matter-of-factly. It would have been really John laughed. I'm glad I'm not dead too, kiddo. And I'm glad Emma stayed because now we're all together, like a family. Emma and John exchanged glances. Sophie, John said carefully, Emma has her own life, her company in New York, big responsibilities. She can't just... Actually, Emma interrupted. I've been thinking about that. The company's stable now. We have solid leadership, good systems. James and Linda can handle day-to-day operations. I don't need to be in Manhattan every day anymore. What are you saying? John asked. I'm saying I could split my time. 2 weeks in New York, 2 weeks here. Run the company remotely when I'm in North Carolina. Be present for you and Sophie. Actually live instead of just working. Emma paused. If that's what you want. John stared at her. Emma, are you seriously offering to restructure your entire life to be here? Is that crazy? It's the least crazy thing you've ever said. Sophie squealed. Does that mean Emma's staying for real? For real, Emma said. If your dad wants me to. John pulled Emma close, kissed her forehead. Gentle. Sure. Like he'd been waiting months to do it. I want you to stay. We both do. That night after Sophie went to bed, Emma and John sat on the fixed porch and talked until 2 a.m. about Lisa, about Emma's ex-husband, about all the ways they'd both broken before they'd learned to rebuild, about fear and hope and what it meant to let someone in after years of walls. I'm not good at this, Emma admitted, at relationships, at vulnerability, at being someone's partner instead of someone's boss. I'm not good at it either. I've been alone for 2 years. I don't know how to share my life again. So we'll figure it out together, slowly, honestly, no pretending. John smiled. I can do that. 3 months later, Emma sat actually in front of Carter Technologies at the annual company meeting. 300 employees, shareholders, board members, press. This year has been transformative, Emma said. We faced fraud, betrayal, near collapse. We survived because we changed how we operate. We prioritized integrity over growth, people over profits, sustainability over shortcuts. Today, I'm announcing the next phase of that transformation. She clicked to the next slide. John appeared on video from North Carolina. Sophie waved from beside him. John Miller has been our Chief Operations Officer for 9 months. In that time, he's revolutionized how we build systems, how we assess risk, how we maintain structural integrity. Today, the board has voted to promote him to President of Operations. He'll continue working primarily from North Carolina because we believe great leadership isn't about physical presence. It's about vision, integrity, and commitment. Applause erupted. Emma clicked to the next slide. Melissa Torres. Melissa Torres started as a junior programmer 2 years ago. This year, she's built our accessibility initiative into an industry-leading program. Today, I'm promoting her to VP of Innovation. Her job makes sure Carter Technologies builds products that work for everyone, not just the able-bodied. More applause. Finally, I'm announcing a personal change. Effective immediately, I'm transitioning from full-time CEO to executive chair. I'll maintain strategic oversight, but will no longer manage daily operations. James Morrison will become CEO. I'll split my time between New York and North Carolina, focusing on long-term vision while giving my incredibly capable team the authority they've earned. The room went silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. Standing ovation for Emma stepping back, for Emma choosing life over work. After the meeting, James found her. "Are you sure about this, stepping back?" "I'm sure, James. I spent 20 years running this company alone, building it, controlling it, making it my entire identity. That almost destroyed me. I'm not making that mistake again." "What will you do with all your free time?" Emma smiled. "Live. Really live. For the first time since the accident, I'm not fighting to prove I'm not broken. I'm just being. And it's terrifying and wonderful and exactly what I need." That weekend, Emma flew back to North Carolina. John and Sophie picked her up at the airport. Sophie ran to Emma with a drawing stick, figures holding hands. 3 of them. Labels: Dad, Emma, me. "I made this at school," Sophie said. "The teacher said to draw our family, so I drew us." Emma looked at the drawing, at the 3 stick figures, at the word family written in crayon at the top. She'd spent 48 years building a company, building a reputation, building walls. Now she was building something different, something smaller, something more important. A family. A real one. Not perfect, not conventional, but real. "It's beautiful," Emma said. "Can I keep it?" "Of course, I made it for you." Emma looked at John over Sophie's head. He was smiling. That full, genuine smile he only showed when Sophie made him laugh or when he looked at Emma and forgot he was supposed to be professional. They drove to the beach house. Their beach house now. Emma had stopped renting it, had started calling it home. That night they had dinner on the porch. The foundation was solid. The water damage was fixed. Everything that had been broken was now rebuilt stronger. Just like them. Sophie fell asleep on the couch. John carried her to bed, came back out to the porch where Emma sat watching the ocean. "You're really doing this," John said. "Restructuring your whole life." "I'm doing this." "Any regrets?" Emma thought about Derek, about the boardroom, about 4 to 4 in 30 days and everyone looking at her like she was already gone. She thought about the moment she'd slammed her hands on the glass table and felt the world closing in. And then she thought about this, about the ocean, about Sophie's drawing, about John sitting beside her, about choosing to stay in a hospital waiting room instead of attending the most important board meeting of her career. "No regrets," Emma said. "Not one." John took her hand. They sat together in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that only existed between people who'd fought through hell together and come out holding each other. "Emma," John said after a while. "Yeah, thank you." "For what?" "For asking me why I was helping you that first day at the beach house. Remember, you asked why I was helping, and I said I hated men like Derek." "I remember. That wasn't true. Or it was true at first. But somewhere between the foundation inspection, in the courthouse, in the hospital, somewhere in there, I stopped helping because I hated Derek. I started helping because I cared about you." Emma felt her throat tighten. "I care about you, too." "I know. You proved that when you stayed, when you signed those papers, when you chose me and Sophie over everything else." John turned to face her. "I'm in love with you, Emma Carter. I've been in love with you for months. And I know that's complicated and messy, and we're still figuring this out, but I needed you to know." Emma looked at him, at the man who'd fixed her broken foundation, who'd taught her what strength really meant, who'd looked at her wheelchair and seen Emma. Just Emma, not limitations, not damage, not someone to pity. "I love you too," she said. "I think I've loved you since you told me the truth about my foundation being broken. Since you saw the real damage when everyone else was pretending everything was fine." John kissed her. Soft, sure, like a promise. They sat on the porch until midnight, talking and laughing and planning a future neither of them had expected, but both of them wanted. Sophie appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Are you guys kissing?" Emma and John pulled apart, guilty as teenagers. Maybe, John admitted. Sophie grinned. Good. That means we're really a family now. That's what families do. They kiss and hug and stay together. She went back to bed. John laughed. Well, I guess that settles it. Settles what? We're officially a family. Sophie has declared it. No takebacks. Emma smiled. No takebacks. 6 months later, Emma stood in a courtroom again. Different courthouse, different judge, different reason. The judge looked at the papers, looked at Emma and John and Sophie sitting together, looked at the social worker's report recommending approval. Ms. Carter, and the judge said, "You're seeking to adopt Sophie Miller as her legal guardian while Mr. Miller remains her father. You understand this makes you equally responsible for her care, education, and well-being." "I understand, Your Honor." "And Sophie, you understand what this means. Emma will become your legal guardian. She'll have the same rights and responsibilities as your father." Sophie nodded seriously. "It means she's my mom, not the mom who had me, but the mom who chose me." The judge smiled. "That's exactly right. Adoption granted. Congratulations." Sophie jumped into Emma's lap. John hugged them both. They were officially a family, not by blood, not by the traditional path, but by choice, by commitment, by love that had grown from broken foundations into something unshakable. That evening, they celebrated at the beach house. Just the three of them. No press, no board members, no shareholders, just family. "I have something to say," Sophie announced. She stood on a chair like she was giving a speech. "I'm really glad Dad's porch was broken, because if it wasn't broken, he wouldn't have met Emma. And if he didn't meet Emma, we wouldn't be a family. So sometimes broken things are good because they bring people together." Emma felt tears burning. This 7-year-old, now her 7-year-old, understood something it had taken Emma 48 years to learn. Broken didn't mean finished. Broken meant ready to rebuild, ready to transform, ready to become something better than what came before. Later, after Sophie went to bed, Emma and John sat on the porch. Their porch, their house, their life. "Do you ever think about that first day?" John asked. "When I came to inspect the foundation, all the time, I was so angry, so scared, so sure I'd lost everything. And now," Emma looked at the ocean, at the house that had been falling apart and was now solid, at the life she'd built from the ruins of the life she'd lost. "Now I'm grateful. For the accident that forced me to slow down, for Derek's betrayal that showed me who my real allies were, for the broken porch that brought you into my life." Emma took John's hand. "I spent 20 years building a company. It almost destroyed me. Now I'm building something better, a life, a family, a foundation that won't collapse when the storms come. Because you're not building alone anymore. Because I'm not building alone anymore." They sat together in the quiet. The ocean whispered against the shore. The house settled around them, solid, safe, rebuilt with care and honesty and the kind of attention that prevented hidden rot. Emma thought about the boardroom, about Derek's smile, about her hands slamming on the glass table, about the moment she'd thought everything was ending. That moment hadn't been an ending. It had been a beginning. The moment Emma Carter stopped standing alone at the top and started building something real with people who actually gave a damn. She'd lost her legs, lost her company temporarily, lost the identity she'd spent 20 years constructing. But she'd gained something infinitely more valuable: a family, a partner, a daughter, a life that wasn't measured in quarterly profits or stock prices or board votes, but in moments like this, sitting on a fixed porch with the man she loved while their daughter slept safely inside. "Emma," John said quietly, "yeah, I'm glad your porch was broken too." Emma laughed, really laughed. The kind of laugh that came from deep in her chest where all the fear and anger used to live. Best broken porch in North Carolina. Damn right it was. They stayed on the porch until the stars came out, until the ocean went quiet, until Sophie called from inside that she'd had a bad dream and needed both of them. Emma and John went inside together, climbed into Sophie's bed on either side of her. The girls snuggled between them and fell back asleep immediately. Emma looked at John across Sophie's small body. He was smiling. She smiled back. This was strength, not standing alone in a boardroom proving you didn't need anyone. This was strength lying in a 7-year-old's bed at midnight because she needed her parents close, choosing people over profits, choosing love over winning, choosing to rebuild from broken pieces into something that couldn't be shaken by the next storm. Emma Carter had spent 20 years fighting to prove a wheelchair wouldn't stop her. Now she'd finally learned the truth. The wheelchair had never been the problem. The problem was believing strength meant never asking for help, never showing weakness, never admitting you couldn't do everything alone. The solution was right here, in this bed. Between the man who'd taught her that foundations could be rebuilt and the girl who'd shown her that families were made of choice, not blood. Emma closed her eyes, felt John's hand find hers across Sophie's sleeping form, felt the foundation beneath them, solid now, properly built, able to withstand whatever came next. And for the first time in 20 years, Emma Carter wasn't fighting, wasn't proving, wasn't conquering. She was simply beautifully, completely alive.